What an absolutely polarizing moment in American sports, in American history. And it is a football Monday. We're kind of probably going to ping pong back and forth here because we're in a polarizing moment. You know, we have already the Ravens are in uh, training camp. The rookies are. They've reported over the weekend. But as we always start the program out, big sales. And we appreciate you guys coming aboard here. So many other options, especially right now, what's going on in our country. I don't know how you can just escape the noise and the news on what happened this past weekend. You know, in my lifetime, I was 11 months old. So obviously I had no cognizant memory of JFK being shot, but I was 11 months old when JFK was shot. In 68, when Martin Luther King and when Bobby Kennedy were killed. I remember Bobby Kennedy being killed because I'll tell you why. His train went by Norwalk, Connecticut on the way up to Boston. And I remember everybody being on the side of the railroad tracks. This may be a little bit after some of you guys or before some of you guys were born, but like Xander, but I was on the railroad tracks with my mom when Bobby Kennedy's casket came by. Remember, he was shot in Los Angeles, and I remember that it was a huge moment. We were standing there, we were just watching his casket go by, and like I think there was like a parade and all that, and it went on up towards Boston. Then Reagan shot in 81. I think it was the couple days before he was shot, before the national championship game between Indiana and North Carolina that Monday night. Could have been the same day. I don't remember. But this was back in the early 80s, obviously, 81. And now President Trump being shot over the weekend. I don't care what political party you're affiliated with. I don't know how you don't get juiced up on what you saw over the weekend. I don't know how you don't get juiced up about a guy who gets up after being shot, puts his fist in the air, and is telling his people and the people that endorse him with their vote. I don't know how you don't come away with that going, that's going to be one of the most polarizing moments you've ever seen in your life. You'll remember the day when Trump was shot, watching that. That was just one of those moments in history. It's like Theodore Roosevelt of the modern era. I mean, hey, Prince, far right? Dude, you mean right. Not far right. Right. I don't care what you. Hey, dude, at the end of the day, you don't choose elections with bullets. You pull them with ballots. That's how you choose people in this country. I've always said that. And by the way, every single person in this country has a right to their opinion, their religion, anything they want to believe in. You don't have a right to tell me how to believe. You don't have a right to tell me who to vote for. You don't have a right to tell me what my religious affiliation is. You have no right telling me any of that. I don't give a shit what your party is. You have no right telling me that. Nothing. My questions, though, for that shooting, how do you have a clear shot angle at the president of the United States and you don't secure the perimeter when you know it's Donald Trump? How don't you secure that perimeter? That's completely incompetence. It's complete incompetence. Now, I'll tell you what. This week at the RNC, Trump's got a moment to unify the entire country. If they go rhetoric and they go back and forth and they start ping-ponging, we learn nothing from this past weekend. If both dudes end up becoming, and it becomes a political race and you go on policy, It was a great moment in our country, and it galvanized the country. You know, a moment like that can galvanize your country in a good way. 9/11 galvanized us. As bad as 9/11 was, don't you guys remember what happened after 9/11? I thought there was more patriotic pride in this country than ever before. Okay? I thought there was I was more patriotic after 9/11 than I've been in the last 23 years. Can you imagine that? In the last 23 years, I watched a terrorist attack at the United States of America on homeland, and I watched the president of the United States being shot at. Remember, I mean, who would have thunk it? This is our government letting us down like this. Like government letting us down. We had a terrorist attack on our country, 9/11, and we had a president of the United States being shot. I mean, we learn nothing from our history, that anything's possible. We always have to be prepared for it. It's crazy. Government has let us down a lot. Senor, that's right. That's why the people, you and me, senor. You know what's great about our show? We agree to disagree in here, but we come back every day to have a conversation. What happened to that in the world? Where people just like turn their backs on people for whatever political agenda. You and I have disagreements, but you know the coolest thing about sports? It galvanizes us. It brings us together. I can't wait for this season in the National Football League, in college football, because those are the times that are going to galvanize our country. It really is. Okay? It really is. Football is a uniter. Because you know why? I've told you this before. You can sit in the stands in a 60,000 seat stadium or 70,000 seat stadium, Republicans, Democrats, Jews, Gentiles, whomever. And you're talking about the Eagles. You're talking about the Niners, the Bills, the Commanders, what have you. It's pretty cool. That's the coolest thing about sports. It's the greatest thing about our country. We'll talk a little more through it, and we'll sprinkle it in, obviously, because I just thought it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. It was like Teddy Roosevelt after he got shot and he delivered his speech. Not quite, because he got shot in the chest, and only an eyeglass case saved Teddy Roosevelt. But it was like Teddy Roosevelt stuff. Guy wanted to get up and go back and say some words. Secret Service says, we'll have none of that, sir. And they took him, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of them at the RNC, especially tonight and maybe on Thursday for sure. That's going to be unbelievable to watch. So I hope we take advantage of this moment. Okay? I don't have a preference, but everyone is entitled to their opinion. Just don't push your agenda on me. I don't see left or right. Hey, Prince, I try to do that, but it's hard when you see a moment like that and you watch a guy get up off the turf after having an assassination attempt on his life because he has a different political agenda. How could people call that guy Hitler? Hitler gassed 6 million Jews. How is there anything remotely close to that guy? How do you go on television saying that and making that comparison where that guy sent his own people to death and then had the orders to gas 6 million Jews? And you have television and news hosts that go on the air using that reference and that comparison, and you shake your head and you go, where did you get that from? That's what infuriates people when you hear that. Hitler gassed 10 million people in Europe. From 36, my uncle's family left Austria and Germany because of that guy. Okay, I mean, hey, dude, I don't believe in anything on both sides when it comes to I don't. You're entitled to your opinion. I surely flexing, like you said. I hope everyone takes advantage of a moment that you have that you can do and make this something good. I really do. Hey, man, you know how easy it is to take shots and low-hanging fruit right now? Oh, my God. Trump's got the advantage right now like you wouldn't believe. He could just go after. The moment right now is to unify. That's what I'm saying. And that's one of the coolest things that I get to do is sports. It is, man. You know why? I think sports unifies. The reason I opened my show like this is because I don't know how you can't talk about it on what you saw as Americans, whether you like him or not. You had to go, that's sad. My aunt cried, and she can't stand Trump. And she's like, that's no way to do this. Absolutely no way to do this. Let's do this in November. And I'm like, that's right. Amen. Get that. See that? My aunt and I have sometimes heated conversations. We don't talk about politics after a while. But you know what she said? She was very upset about our country. She was like, that's not. Even my daughter's like, that's no way to do this. That's just no way to do this. I'm glad that we have some common sense. Isn't it funny? The people that cover sports and the people that cover politics, most notably, don't have our best interest and don't have our thoughts. Hey, we want to beat the guy or we want the guy to win in November, but we want to do it the right way. Go show up and put a vote in, right? Hey, man, I get a chance to do this and talk to you guys every day, and it's because we live in the greatest country in America. Okay? The most watched speech on television will be Trump's next speech. This is our opportunity as Americans to unite. Latin Inferno, amen. Amen, man. I endorse that 100%, and I agree with you. Okay, I do. God bless America, Jason. Shit. Dude, absolutely, man. God bless America. God bless America. You know how close we were to civil war? Imagine a rioting that would have happened if Trump was killed on Saturday. The retribution that would have been taken against Biden. Hey, by the way, I fear for Joe now. You better up that security for Joe because there's always tit for tat. And that's not what we want to see. You know? And by the way, you better get some security over, and Secret Service people better get off their ass and go protect Robert Kennedy Jr. right now. That man's family has given to this country his uncle and his father. And because you didn't want to make him a viable candidate, and the White House didn't, and the Democrats didn't want to give him Secret Service protection, is absurd. That guy and his family have given too much to this country not to protect that guy. And because you thought he was a wacko, you didn't give that guy Secret Service, there's something wrong with you. That's politics 101 right there. You need to protect that guy. He's not going to win, but he's a Kennedy. What a better way to make a point than to kill another Kennedy. I mean, would you want that if you're Joe Biden on your head, another Kennedy was assassinated on your watch? After what we saw this Saturday, you better get somebody to cover that guy's ass. You better, man. Because we're in a position right now where people are maniacs. And people will do anything right now. Right now, they'll do anything as we get closer to November. There's evil in the world, man. You got to protect yourself against it. Okay? Nobody should lose their life. Let's not forget about the man who died protecting his family. Man, Corey's a fireman too, and I posted that. You know, I thought, hearing and seeing that he just had his 50th birthday and he was throwing himself his last noble act. My pop was a fireman. Saving lives is what these people do. They're uncommon. They run into fires. You and me run away from fires. And what does this guy do? Last heroic thing he does is throw himself over his family to shield them, and he gets killed. Said there was brain matter all over the place. They shot him in the head. A bullet that was aimed for Trump hit him in the head because he supported Donald Trump. He was killed because he supported a presidential candidate. Shouldn't happen in America, man. It just shouldn't happen. It's just not cool. Man, guy was a firefighter, so it kind of touched me more. I mean, I saw his gear. I got gear like that. My pop has that stuff. My pop was a fireman for 30 years. 30 years. He was a fireman protecting people. My aunt and my grandma and I used to go watch him fight fires. These guys are legends to me. Every one of those firemen, I used to spend my life in those firehouses in Stanford. My pop would spend the night, and I'd sleep on the cot with him. And every time they had to go out on calls at night, I'd sit there with the dispatcher until those guys got home. I'd go up and down the fire poles back in the day with the rice bags. When you landed, you go from the third floor, there's a second floor one. I used to do all that stuff. My grandpa used to take lunches. I'd go spend the night in the firehouse. I love that, man. All right. It's not enough of that because we'll sprinkle it back in. So let's get into some sports here. How about this? As I said, the Ravens. Their rookies reported on the 13th, which was Saturday. They're already in the building. How you doing? Okay? How you doing? Right? Prince goes, it's a fucking sports show, bro. No, it's not. It's a people show that talks sports. Hoss, I've never done just a sports show. You got me wrong, Prince. For 34 years, this show has been more than just sports. It's been more than football. It's been everything. I don't run from anything like Angelo says. It's not just a sports show, okay? We talk everything. James, thank you. By the way, I see you over on Twitter there, James. Appreciate that. Prince goes, holy cow. Sills, relax, kid. One day we're going to get that thing figured out there, Prince, where everybody can talk. Can't wait till we do that. All right. We hear you, Sills. Let's move on. You know what? Me too. I want to do that. So here are the teams that are reporting tomorrow, and their rookies reporting. I think the Eagles report on the 23rd. So that's the beginning of next week here. Bills report tomorrow. Their rookies, Bears, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, 49ers. We're here, folks. It's time for training camp. Are you ready to rock and roll? Okay, are you ready to rock and roll? You're here. Hey, summertime's over. You're a football player. Your summer vacay is over. It's time to go to work now, man. You're getting yourself ready. You're starting to get ready to pack your bags, get into U-Haul, send your ass wherever you're going, wherever you're living currently, if you don't live in that residing city. It's here, baby. It's here. Okay, JM, I like the Chargers' chances this year. Please hit the like button too, guys. You know how we are. We're trying to get to 200 likes each and every single day. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, okay? Okay, here we go. So many teams are reporting this week. Looking forward to it. All right. I heard something, I think it was in the Philly Voice, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to hit on this first. By the way, Gary Cobb at 4:30. Our friend Xander's going to join us at 3:30. So please hit the like button. Nick Sirianni, in my opinion, I don't think gets it. But you tell me. So Sirianni says we're not going to overcorrect when it comes to our preparation for the upcoming season. In 22, they got out to an 8-0 start. In 23, I think it was a 5-0 start they got out to. Was it a 5-0 start, something like that they got out to? So he believes that they're not going to do anything to kind of overcorrect. So basically, they're going to prepare the same way that they prepared this past season for the upcoming 2024 season. I think that's a fatal flaw because I think every single team is different and every team has to be prepared differently. I don't think you can have an organizational mentality on preparing. Some teams are more littered with veterans. Some teams are more littered with inexperienced players. Would you really prepare the 2024 Eagle team the same way you prepared the 2022 team? Let's ask that question first. And let's see how you look at that. Would you prepare this to let's go with the latest Super Bowl team. Would you prepare this 2024 team the same way you prepared the 2022 team? Would you? Would you prepare the team the same way? This football team this year, according to Nick, they're not going to overcorrect in any way. They are going to prepare exactly like they did a year ago. This comes down from upstairs. This is not a Nick Sirianni thing. I think the offseason this year is a little different than previous years. Harder OTAs, training camp, more offseason work. They told the off-looking 20-year-old kid, no, we're not going there right now. Too many new and young faces. Marina, correct. Seems like Nick trumped not making any adjustments and bad ending of last season. That's true. Do you believe Nick Sills? That's the question. Yeah, I think that the question was asked maybe by the coordinators and the new coordinators, and I think they probably wanted to have a little bit more intense of a training camp, and I think they're not going to overcorrect, and I think that's been thrown out. So wait a minute. That's a good point. Nick's saying that they're not going to prepare any different than what they're not going to use, and I'm quoting, they're not going to overcorrect in how they've prepared the last two seasons. You can't make that blanket statement when your roster is changed. You're not the same team of 2022. You have more question marks than ever before in the last 3 years. There's more question marks on this team than even a year ago. And you're trying to tell me you're going to prepare the same way. Here's something else to think about. Every single thing that you did this past season and your preparation affected your team at the end of the year because you ran out of gas. So, what was the difference between the year previous and 23? It was experience. Players knew how to prepare. Easier schedule. Not as hard of a quarterback list that you had to go through. So many things are different. Every year is a different chapter when you're talking about an organization. It's not the same. You don't do everything the same. I think that's a fundamental mistake. And to me, if you start the season and you do all the shitty things, so get this, they're not going to prepare Nakobe Dean for the upcoming September 6th game in Brazil because they don't want to get him hurt in the exhibition season. How the fuck do you know if the guy's good or not? How do you know that? You believe Nick now all of a sudden? Well, shit, dude. Something's got to be true out of his mouth. I think they're bullcrapping to lower expectations. I don't. Every single thing that they did in their preparation for the season affected the end of the year. Everything they did. Well, Sills, what happened in 22? It was a better roster. It was a better roster. That's what the difference was. Nobody in their right mind thinks this roster is better than 22. Nobody. Well, Sills, don't you see all the young players? Yeah, but I don't give you I don't give you the benefit of the doubt. You do. You're giving Keely Ringo the benefit of the doubt. I'm not. You're giving Isaiah Rodgers the benefit of the doubt. I'm not. Why wouldn't you, Sills? I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt that there'll be an impact. I'm not saying they'll suck. I'm just telling you, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to be good and have an impact on the team this year until I see it. Don't you want to see shit before you start having proclamations and guesses? And, I get calls sometimes from people in my family that go, so what do you think? Why was this late? Why? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't run the company. And I don't throw that out why something is what it gets here when it gets here. That's right, Cosmo. They need to validate it this fall that they're going to be an impact. Sills, I think how many people here think the secondary is going to be massively improved? How's it going to be massively improved when Nick says they're going to do no fundamental changes whatsoever in their preparation for the upcoming season? So that means you're not going to have really a lot of exhibition football with your guys that are going to be your frontline guys getting ready for September 6th down in Brazil. How do you know that you're going to be ready and prepared? You haven't practiced very much. How many practice days do you think the Eagles have had? Let's take a look at that. How many total practice days have the Philadelphia Eagles had? Okay. How many have they had so far with these new coaches? What would you think? 20 days? Okay, 20 days? How many people? 20 days? You're going to get another 14 or 17, so 37 days. You think you're going to have your young group ready to rock with 34 days of practice? Truly, you think that? Is that right? You think that, correct? Well, I don't. With new coordinators, being asked to do new assignments because your quarterback and your secondary and everyone is going to be in a position where, guess what? They're not going to pretty much do the they're not going to do anything off the charts here. Sills would travel 40 days in the desert and be upset there wasn't deciding. I don't know what that means. Tell us what you would do to increase our knowledge. Great question. Great question. Great question. That I don't believe. This one here. Tell us what you do know and increase our knowledge. This is what I would do. I'd play these guys as much as I possibly could in those exhibition games to get quality reps to see which guys shuffle out and who I think is going to be in the secondary. Thanks, James Carver. I appreciate it. We'll say JMC's article today, John McMullins, supports your point when saying he choose more over Kingsbury because Latter wanted more changes to be made in the offense versus Moore. Even though I'm happy with his pick, given my relationship with Cliff Kingsbury. Thank you, James. James, I know they wanted Cliff Kingsbury. They had a 3-year contract on the table. He wanted to make a complete change and bring his own guys in. Okay? I think Stoutland was the deal breaker. He wanted to bring him in, and I think he wanted to have his own offensive line coach brought in. That would break the deal for me, even though I wanted Cliff. Okay? Even though I wanted Cliff. I'm going to get to that conversation, too. I saw that. The redefining and the image of what John wrote about Nick Sirianni. It's funny. So John thinks that there's a re-imaging of the head coach. And there's been a different style of coaching of the quarterback. What is going on? Why can't you leave well enough alone? and expand on what these guys do good or don't do well. I don't understand how the Eagles are so hands-on. They micromanage and they overcook the books when you don't have to. Okay? Kingsbury's never been an NFL OC. Not true. He was the play caller when he was in Arizona. Absolutely not true. Won 11 ball games with Sean McVay and Pete Carroll in that division too. Absolutely 1,000% not true. Was a play caller there. Was pretty much along with Lincoln Riley, the play caller at SC. And also was the play caller for Pat Mahomes when he was at Texas Tech. So when you make that comment, the OC in Arizona for the Cardinals was him. He was the guy on the sidelines as the play caller, the same way Sean McVay is the play caller in Los Angeles. You don't have to have the title, guy. Okay? You actually think Dan Quinn's not going to be the head of the defense in Washington because they got a D coordinator in the building? That's absurd to think that. It's absurd to think that Dan Quinn, or do you think Sean McDermott doesn't have overall say in that defense in Buffalo? It's absurd to think that. Or you don't think that, how about this one? Jim Harbaugh doesn't have complete say and will be the play caller in Los Angeles with the Chargers? That's absurd to think that. Okay? That's absurd. I put $100 to your charity. You picked that the Eagles win more than 7 games. I think they'll win between 7 and 10 games, somewhere in there. It's all going to come down to the defense. It's going to come down to the defense. Hey, Steve goes, Kingsbury's done 0. Well, he got a quarterback paid. And Kellen Moore has done shit in the postseason too. And the only guy he's ever coached with success has been Dak. Take that for what it's worth. Dude, your guy is not that great. He's good. Kellen Moore's a good coordinator. He's not great. He has no accomplishments. What's this? Whoa, he's had 2 number 1 offenses. Great. I care about winning Super Bowls. There's certain guys that can put a lot of numbers up and a lot of points up. How about winning ball games when it matters? How about those coordinators? Those are the guys you want. Hey, if you're going to get this, nobody in the world would ever sit around and go like this. You get on Kyle Shanahan's ass all the time for losing Super Bowls. At least that guy loses Super Bowls. Kellen Moore gets crushed in the and by the way, national media-wise, nobody thinks Jalen is better than Dak. Nobody, only the people in Philly think Jalen's better than Prescott as a talent. He is better. Dak's a better passer. There's no getting around it. And he's on a better team. There's no getting around it. We'll make that point here. Nobody right now thinks that Hurts is a top 10 talent. But he can have a top 5 season. Is it possible? Yeah. Depending on how well. Jalen is a product of the team's success, which means this. Last year is a great example of it. He didn't have personal success last year, and the team fell apart. Everyone else had personal success. He didn't have personal success. He's the only guy in that offense that didn't, as a skilled guy. He's the only player in that Eagle offense that didn't benefit from last year's 8th-ranked defense. Why? Play calling didn't affect those other guys. Play calling affected winning. True. And the winning affects Hurts and how he's perceived. Nobody in the world would not think that A.J. Brown's one of the top 3 wideouts, even after a 1-7 meltdown or 1-6 meltdown. Nobody would think that, right? But why would they think that about Hurts then? Why would they think that about Hurts? Right? Okay? How about this? So Sills, was Hurts a system quarterback then? Absolutely. Is Purdy? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being a system quarterback. You know who's not a system quarterback? Guys like Mahomes, Allen, players like that. You know why? They're only a product of their own talents. And if the more talent you put around, there's a reason you have lesser talent around those guys because they're assuming you can carry the football team. There's a reason there's more talent around Purdy and Hurts because they know they can't carry the team. When you spend that kind of money, did you see that number too? What is that number? Let me throw this at you here. So Howie has the most expensive football team in the league. Here it is. And I read this here. And I think it's in 2025 or 2026 that the bills are due. And that Howie's going to have to start adjusting some of his contracts. Because at the end of the day, he spent well over $255 million. He spent like nearly $300 million right now with cap money that's going to be due over the next 2 years. You get ready for football, doing football activities. The D and the O both learn new stuff. Okay? Agreed. According to Chris Kaufman, the Eagles have over $300 million in future cap debt. Think about that. Over 300 and I think it's like 15 million in future cap debt. Well, and here, well above the 255.4. No other team is over $300 million but the Eagles. Now, here's the one thing and the one saving grace that you do have. Howie has shown a propensity, and so have the Eagles shown a propensity to restructure these contracts. But again, it's about revolving door. The football team in 2 years will not look the same because of the expiring debt that's coming up. Bills are due soon. If Howie doesn't start adjusting, this is one of the also reasons probably why they weren't going to get into a long-term contract with Reddick because of the age. This is probably why they can't spend a lot of money on defense. You know, the one thing that the Eagles don't have to do, you never have to worry about them cutting guys on defense that have giant contracts because they never sign guys on defense with giant contracts. Like the Bills had to get rid of a ton of guys on defense because it was going against the cap. Same thing with New Orleans. The Eagles don't do that because you know why? All on one-year deals, all mostly on 1 or 2 year contracts at best. You never see a long-term contract with anyone. And so that's why they kind of like, and will always be a top-heavy football team when it comes to their salary cap. So next year and the year after, you got $300 million in debt to your cap. You know how a lot of people keep bringing it up? You know, LJ always brings up, look at the cap hits. Okay. Well, according to Chris Kaufman, coming up in the next 2 years, you have the biggest number owed and how much you have going against your salary cap, which means this, new structuring of deals. Well, who are you going to give a new contract to? You going to restructure Hurts? Are you really going to restructure a quarterback if he doesn't have a good season this year? Are you going to restructure that contract? You know, Jalen has a no trade clause in his contract. He's pretty much got the Eagles by the short hairs on that. He doesn't have to do anything. He could sit and let that contract expire out and play through it, and he doesn't have to do anything. You know what? Signing early like that for him has been an advantage to him. He barely had to prove it 1 year, albeit a good one. Getting to the Super Bowl, having a really good season, no question about it. But really, he doesn't have to do anything. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to have great seasons to keep the Eagles on their toes when it comes to salary cap because he has all the advantage. You got 3 more years on that deal before you can even contemplate doing anything. You owe him a ton of money, and the cap hits start escalating. What are you going to do? Go to him and ask him for new contracts? If this guy doesn't pan out and you owe $300 million, you have the highest number of any team, according to Chris Kaufman, in the next 2 years. Who are you going to restructure? The wideouts? You're going to have to go back and deal with all these players again and lower their number. Every one of these guys. Is Barkley going to be on the team in 2 years? You know, I heard John McMullen say something about Barkley. Okay, watch this. 215 goes, Sills, who's worried about 2 years from now? Howie. Howie is. Howie's worried about it. Roseman's been doing this without any real financial issues for a good while. I think I'll take his moves over some reporter and a YouTube guy. Hey, Slagger, he's done a really good job. Okay, so you got to a Super Bowl and you spend the most money of any team in the league. I'm going to make this point to you, my friend. If you don't do anything with this money that you've spent, it's been the biggest disaster in Eagle history. If you spend over almost $500 million on player salaries and you don't win a Super Bowl, you think that's a success? Do you? I don't. Reporting what the other media says about Hurts, Sills, are you going to hop back on the stick when the media sees Hurts being a top? Lord Vaughn, yeah, because that's what player accountability is. If a player plays himself back into the top 5 like Lamar did, yeah. See, once again, Lord Vaughn doesn't get sports. There's no take set in stone. There's no such thing as a take set in stone. Carson Wentz's career wasn't set in stone. Baker Mayfield's career hasn't been set in stone. Saquon Barkley's career hasn't been set in stone. I actually like what John McMullen said about Barkley today. Saquon Barkley's been a good player. He's not been a great player. And the easy go-to is, well, he was on a bad team. Well, he never elevated it. Derrick Henry elevated the Tennessee Titans to an AFC championship game on a shitty team with Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback. In the last 4 years, Tennessee's been to an AFC title game on the back of Derrick Henry. He elevated that team. Barkley's never elevated anything, and he was the second pick in the draft. Henry was a second rounder. Who's had a better career? Henry was a second-round draft choice, and he's knocking on the door to Hall of Fame. Barkley was the second pick. And in 6 years, he's had 3 1,000-yard seasons and been hurt 2 of the last 4. By the way, this is who he is. He doesn't elevate teams. I'm with John. I think he's a good player. I do. Do I think he's a great player? No, I don't. Do I think he's Josh Jacobs? Absolutely not. Josh Jacobs was on those shitty Raider teams. Look at his career. That guy's had monster numbers. I mean, the Raider O-line's nothing to write home about. Shit, Joe Mixon had 1,000 yards last season on a shitty Cincinnati team. Okay? Barkley hasn't even had a decent vet. I think he's a good ball player. You know who I think he reminds me of a little bit? I think he reminds me a little bit of Reggie Bush's career. I think Reggie Bush was a really good ball player. Do I think Reggie Bush was Reggie Bush, USC? Absolutely not. I think Reggie was a good player. Like, how about this one here? Well, that's not fair because Mark Ingram had 2 pretty good teams. He had the Saints and the Ravens. So that's not fair. I wouldn't compare him to that. He's had a couple 1,000-yard seasons. Mark wasn't really a superstar player at either place because they had dual backs at multiple places. But Mark was a pretty good ball player. But Barkley's numbers have not been great. Bad talent. Okay. It's the only thing I've seen. I thought his rookie year he was good. Seals, do you think he's going to have a Christian McCaffrey type? No, he's not that kind of player. McCaffrey was on a god-awful Carolina team, had 2 years in a row with 100 catches, 1,000 yards catching, 1,000 yards receiving. Absolutely not. He's not in that room. He'll never approach that, especially on two bad wheels. Okay? No, that's not true. Tennessee had some of the worst offensive lines in the history of the NFL. That is not 4 Pro Bowlers. Who? That is not true. Derrick Henry made them look like Pro Bowlers, dude. Are you trying to tell me you think Saquon Barkley is in the same room as Derrick Henry? Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? I do my homework, David. I don't need you to tell me. Okay? You know better than post them. This guy, name me one wide receiver that he had in that AFC title game that had any impact. It was probably AJ was on that team. AJ had 60 catches. They didn't even use him. They didn't even lose him. Titans had the worst line of either RB's career. James, don't see when you tell somebody that, it's always trying to blow up their guy. He's had some of the worst offensive lines in history when he was in Tennessee. No excuses. No, you're making an excuse for Barkley. Let's move on here. So rent's due next year and the year after. Do I think Howie is going to be able to manipulate through that? I do. I want to get into this other topic now. And this goes into Jalen Hurts. So the top 10 quarterbacks from executives head coaches and general managers came out through ESPN. And here are the top 10 quarterbacks according to executives. Number 10, Dak Prescott. Number 9, Jared Goff. Number 8, A-Rod. Number 7, CJ Stroud. Number 6, Justin Herbert. Number 5, Matthew Stafford. Number 4, Lamar Jackson. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 2, Joe Burrow. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Hurts is nowhere on this list. Honorable mention according to some. And I put mine down, my top 10 out of those 10, because those are the 10 best in the league right now. Those are the 10 best. I got Herbert 10th. I got Prescott 9. I got Goff 8. I got Stroud 7. I got Stafford 6. I got A-Rod 5. I got Lamar 4. I got Allen 3, Burrow 2, Mahomes 1. Top 3 are right. Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen are the 3 best quarterbacks in pro football today. It's not a debate. Well, you could put Lamar in there. Maybe the top 4, and you can arrange them in a way that you want. Lamar, Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. Those are your 4 best quarterbacks in the league today. And it's absolutely not a debate. It's only a debate in Philly because you think your guy's a top 12 guy. Now, I got a theory on this. You know what? I asked somebody who was involved in this list. You're not supposed to know some of the names, but you guys know who Mike Lombardi is? I think we've had Mike on this here. Do you know who Mike Lombardi is? You guys heard the name? Former general manager of the Cleveland Browns. Worked up in New England. Did some work up in New England with Bill Belichick, a personnel guy. Really well respected. And I asked him, who puts this list out every year? He goes, well, it does go to executives. I could put A-Rod, only him and Stafford won Super Bowls. They're talking about the most talented quarterbacks right now in the league. And by the way, most of these guys, and almost all of them, win from the pocket. Mahomes, pocket. Burrow, pocket. Allen, pocket. 4,500 yards every year. That guy will never not throw for 4,000 yards. Your guy can't sniff it. Lamar, a dual threat guy, 1. Stafford, pocket guy. Herbert, pocket guy. Stroud, pocket guy. A-Rod, pocket guy. Golf, pocket guy. Prescott, pocket guy. There's only one non-pocket guy here, and that's Lamar Jackson. The rest of them are all from the pocket. Every quarterback and every single guy that's an evaluator knows you can't win, and no one gives a shit about those running touchdowns. Not one of these guys have anything to do with rushing touchdowns. Nothing. These are the 10 best quarterbacks. Okay, I have a theory on this, though. So I talked to Mike Lamar. I talked to Mike Lombardi. I talked to Mike Lombardi on what some of these guys think of Jalen Hurts. We're going to get him on, too. I'm working on getting Mike. He does a podcast show pretty much right in the same room as we do each and every single day. Okay? I'm not even debating that any longer. I'm just not. Let's do this here. So the Eagles have made Hurts a non-top 10 quarterback. You know what their big problem was a year ago with him? There were less run options, and the precision RPOs were not as effective last year, and they didn't run them as much. That's by design. Remember something. That was Nick Sirianni's offense. So that had to be by design. Less RPOs. Less run options. The read option was taken out of the game. And so were the precision RPOs. This is what managers are saying. So you took a guy who was a top 5 quarterback and turned him into a top 15 quarterback because of the way you're coaching him. This is an Eagle issue, as I've been saying, and it's not a Hurts issue. They made Jalen Hurts not a top 10 quarterback. Less read options, less RPOs. Okay? Jalen wouldn't have gotten easily over 4,000 yards last season, but he didn't. How would he have? He threw more attempts than he did the year previous. Not true. Dude, there's not a chance in hell. Vegas has the guy at 3,600 yards this year. Nobody thinks that guy's a 4,000-yard passer. Nobody. Nobody in the league thinks that. The guys in Vegas and Atlantic City don't even think that. Nobody thinks that. Okay? Hurts was hurt. Hurts was hurt last year. I heard a guy on with the Birds 365. Jesus, criminy. You'll find something that wasn't there. He was never on the injured reserve at one time. And if he was hurt, why didn't you sit him? So you're trying to make the excuse of play calling and injury and not blame the quarterback for his play is pathetic. It is pathetic. Mahomes plays hurt. Most quarterbacks play hurt. It's pathetic. Excuses are like assholes. I mean, you make them up for a guy. Why are you protecting? Hey, stop falling in love with Jalen Hurts. Fall in love with your team. I don't give a shit about that kid. I care he wins. Not going to dinner, nor you. You're not breaking bread with him. You're not going over to his house for dinner. Who gives a shit? Play. Win. That's it. Don't give a shit about him. So just because they're good statistically doesn't mean they'll win a Super Bowl. Just ask Delfer, Foles. Marino was good. Kelly also. Yeah. The Super Bowl has no indication on what kind of talent you are because there's been so many things happen. It's a one-game scenario. The Super Bowl, unless you're winning multiple Super Bowls, it won't. Get this. Do you think the Super Bowl for Trent Dilfer defines his career? He won a Super Bowl. You think that defines his career? Does anybody in their right mind think that Trent Dilfer is a top 20 quarterback in the history of the league? You think that defines him? Absolutely not. You think Jeff Hostetler winning a Super Bowl, that defines his career? Or you would name him a top 20 quarterback? What are you, crazy? Nobody would ever take Jeff Hostetler or any of those other guys over Dan Marino or Warren Moon or Jim Kelly. Nobody. Those are truly great quarterbacks we're talking. Okay? Sills, so you think Hurts should stop running and turn into a pocket passer? No. No, I would have a completely different conversation about Jalen Hurts if Jalen Hurts were the 22 Hurts. Okay? Let's see here. Sills Glaze Trump. What's Trump have to do with Jalen Hurts? Please, that makes sense. Hey, Prince, what does Donald Trump have anything to do with the conversation of Jalen Hurts being coached completely different by the organization? And now they're trying to even redefine Nick Sirianni. What does that have to do with anything? How did you tie that in with your feeble brain? How did you work that in? Pretty interesting. Because if you could show me the tie-in, I'd like to know where Donald Trump has anything to do with the evaluation of what most people and scouts and general managers have to think about the way Hurts is looked at today in the league. What in the world does that have to do with anything? Or is that just something that you wanted to throw a subtle shot to the side? What does that have to do with anything? Funny. Hey, by the way, really cool to see the Eagles and the Steelers making a public comment about, the tragedy in Butler, Pennsylvania. 35 minutes to Pittsburgh and 3.5 hours to Philadelphia. You guys don't say anything. Yet what you guys will do is you'll do all kinds of stuff. You'll do June 19th. You'll celebrate all kinds of other dumbass holidays and all these other things that you'll do. But what you won't do is, because it was a Trump rally, the National Football League doesn't want to go there when there were Pennsylvanians that were injured and one was killed and one was a fireman. And you don't have the fucking balls to sit there as a league and to sit there and at least show some sympathy for the families and for people from Pennsylvania. Pretty fucking low. Pretty fucking low. You'll tell me who to vote for, but you won't celebrate Corey, who was a fireman in that county, and the two leagues, they'll put up all these fucking banners, but what they won't do is they won't celebrate and they won't talk about the horrific situation that happened in Pennsylvania. Okay? Give me a break. June 19th is now an irrelevant holiday. Hey, dude, no, not to me. You want to keep making ones up? Have at it. More days off for me. It's great. But when you take July 4th away from the park services, I got a problem with it. Celebrate it all. Hey, by the way, stop fucking crying. Stop crying. Hey, stop crying. This man says that June 19th is a dumbass holiday. It was just made up about 3 years ago, wasn't it? 4 years ago? Hey, Prince, you don't have to be here today. Take the day off. Take the day off, guy. Go harass someone else. Okay? Go harass someone else, guy. I'm not into it today. I'm talking about you did not say a word, and this is more about the NFL not celebrating the life of Corey, who was tragically gunned down. But the league will do all kinds of other bullshit and celebrate all kinds of other shit, but they won't celebrate the life of a Pennsylvanian. Okay. Okay. Right. Crazy. Nothing. No word from the Eagles or the Steelers. Hey, and how about this? Corey was a Steeler fan. Barkley was playing behind a different roster of crappy old line players every year. Okay. Okay. Okay, Prince, you took that like that? No problem. Sure. I think everything today is that. I think dumping the Redskin name is dumb. I think taking down statues is dumb. I think all the shit's dumb. All of it. All of it's dumb. Red, white, and blue, baby. Okay? Mike Tomlin is a coach of a mediocre football team. Mike Tomlin is a great coach. Okay? Whatever, Prince. Take the day off, kid. I said it. Do I think making up holidays today to satisfy people and once again, this goes back to the Dave Chappelle thing, Prince. How far do I have to go to make you feel better about your life? When we're making things up just to make you feel better about your life. Why do I have to go to that extent? Why is that on me? So that you can feel better about yourself. My problem is you making me have to like something. I don't. If you like something that much, good for you, guy. Okay? How far do I have to go for you to feel better about your lives? If you add other things, the way you see things in life. Don't lean on me. to have to make you feel better about your life so that I can feel better about you. I don't care. Okay? Hey, that's a perfect example of what I was just talking about, how we opened the show. Okay? Tomlin hasn't done anything since Ben. Jalen Hurts will indeed be here. Tomlin's fine. They just need a quarterback. Always has been since Ben. Jason, that has clearly been the problem in Pittsburgh. That has clearly been the problem in Pittsburgh. Make no mistake about it. Absolutely true. Cowher got a Super Bowl when, hey, can you believe that? So let me ask you this. Neil O'Donnell got a quarterback and got a Super Bowl ring and went to the Super Bowl. Right? Right? Tomlin is not a great effing coach, Sills. He's Mike Martz. I disagree with that 100%. I think Mike Tomlin is a great coach, and he's the coach in the NFL today that I'd want to play for. I would totally want to play for Mike Tomlin. I think that guy holds you accountable. He's got complete say over his roster, and I absolutely love what that guy brings to an organization. I think Mike Tomlin's one of the top 3-4 coaches in the National Football League. Okay? I do. Shows Cowher Tomlin. I think Tomlin is good, but Cowher's better. Well, let's put this into perspective there when you say Cowher's better. Well, I think Mike Tomlin's done more than Cowher. I think he's done more than Bill Cowher. Look at Jay Brown. Jay Brown is comparing Nick Sirianni to Mike Tomlin. When Mike Tomlin picks his own coaches and is part of the personnel decisions, when Nick can't even pick his nose. Okay? Really? Why do you think he has longevity? People are just insane today. Hey, Jason, right. They're fueled by things that have gone on this past weekend. Exactly right, Jason. They're overcooked right now. They think that Mike Tomlin is not a good coach, but Sirianni's better, or he's the same. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. Sure. Right. M. Reyes says, can't win without an ace quarterback. Okay, well, neither could Bill Walsh. Neither could Jimmy Johnson. Neither could Don Shula. Neither could Bill Belichick. Neither could Chuck Noll. Neither could pick one. They all had ace quarterbacks. All the great coaches in the NFL have, outside of Joe Gibbs, all had ace quarterbacks. So, if Mike Tomlin picks personnel, he sure picks it on offense. He sure sucks at it on offense. And if Howie's picking defense and picking the talent on defense, he sure sucks there too. You don't get it all right, do you? You don't get it right. And Mike is a defensive guy. That's right. His defenses ain't been shit since Cowher's guys left. Really. He's only winning because of defenses. Last year, his offense scored like 16 points a game. And they still had a winning season. And they won with a guy named Mason Rudolph. Aikman didn't start out as an ace. The team was 1-15. And as the team got better, Aikman got better. Had nothing to do with developing of Troy Aikman. It had the developing of the roster. When the roster got better, Aikman got better. Don't you see it? 1-15. Then they went 7-9. They won a Super Bowl in year 3. And as the roster got better, Aikman got better. It wasn't Aikman carrying the team. It was the roster getting better. You make it seem like Aikman carried the team. Emmett carried the team. The football team that won those Super Bowls in Dallas went through Emmett. Didn't go through Troy. It went through Aikman. I mean, it went through Emmett Smith. If his offense scores 16 points a game, how's he a great coach? Once again, when you come out of 18 years of one quarterback, what do you actually think? That transition to finding another starting quarterback is as seamless as it is in Green Bay? Do you really think that is how that works? What you see in Green Bay, or what you saw from Manning to Andrew Luck, is not common. They have not found a quarterback in Miami since Marino. Okay? I mean, well, Tua now, potentially. Tua. What excuses? What are you talking about, excuses? It's reality. If the roster, Jalen Hurts hasn't gotten better. The roster has. How can you have that kind of talent? Think about that. Jalen Hurts' roster got better and he got worse. How's that possible? And that's what people in the league are looking at. That's why he's not perceived as a top 10 guy. The Eagle roster got better. He got worse. How's that possible? How's that possible? Seals, you think Tua gets paid? Tyreek Hill thinks he should be paid some of the top money of the quarterbacks that are in the league. I don't know, man. I mean, that's a really funny situation they got going on in Miami. It really is. He didn't get worse by numbers besides interceptions. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I guess. Do you know what his quarterback rating was the last 8 games of the year? You might want to look those numbers up. They were atrocious. How about him getting hit and sacked? You crazy? Because his head coach sucked. Excuse number 1. Injured. Excuse number 2. Player, not him. Eugene says Eagle fans really have allowed themselves to be duped into thinking Lombardi's done based on a Kelsey speech. How do you know that? As you say, for projections, you don't know if it plays out. So how can you know Hurts got worse? He didn't get worse last year? Alejandro, he didn't get worse last year in your eyes. I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about what he just did. I'm basing my takes on Hurts on who he is, not what you think he's going to be. That's a problem people have. Projections. Projections are like when you say potential. Projections and potential are the dumbest comments you can make about a football team. Projections and potential are things you haven't done. Well, I'm projecting Keely Ringo. Dude, that's fantasy talk. That's like rubbing the magic genie lamp. No. With Sales' dumb logic, Patrick Mahomes got worse with his 50 touchdowns. No. Patrick Mahomes got better because he had to carry his team more. He had to spread the ball around more. Okay, so wait a minute. You don't think Hurts – so do you actually think that Jalen Hurts, with his talent around him, do you actually think that if Patrick Mahomes didn't have that kind of talent in Kansas City, he wouldn't be throwing for 70 touchdowns a year? When you take Tyreek Hill and other players off the team, those numbers are going to come down. He's a better quarterback than he was 3 years ago. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback today. Did you really look at Jalen Hurts last year and thought that Jalen Hurts played well? I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about Jalen Hurts last year. Did you think he played well down the stretch? Did you think he had a good season? Mahomes is a better quarterback today, just like Michael Jordan is a better basketball player once they asked him to stop scoring and winning scoring titles. Had to spread it around more, had to be more of a quarterback, had to have more of a spread offense, had to do things, had to sacrifice some numbers, and he did. And he did. Jalen will bounce back. Projection, not fact. Put Mahomes here, he ain't winning shit with our defense and coaching. Right. He just won 2 years ago with a bunch of rookies playing in the secondary. Right. Okay. Well, no, you're probably right because they have superior coaching in Kansas City on both sides of the football. Projection and what potential. My two least favorite words when you're talking football, people. Those are totally fantasy football talk. Hurts so bad, but your argument has to compare him to Holmes. Well, once again, Jay Brown wants me to compare Jalen Hurts to Zach Wilson. Mahomes' defenses and defensive coach is number one compared to 31st ranked Eagles defense. Well, hire better coaches. That's why I bitch every day, senor. Hire better coaches. Hire better coaches. Andy does. Brett Veach does. Hire better coaches. Hire coaches that you're not going to be afraid that are going to have some latitude on what kind of players they want. Not have the personnel guy run your team or the GM run your team. The problem with the Eagles is clearly this. There's not a work relationship with the head coach and the general manager. In Pittsburgh, the GM works with the head coach. In Kansas City, the GM works with the head coach. In Los Angeles, the general manager and front office works with Sean McVay. John Lynch in San Francisco works with Kyle Shanahan. Nick Sirianni looks like an employee of Nick's, does he not? That's maybe a little bit of what John's column was about redefining him. You're redefining a guy you hired to be completely different than what you hired. You thought you were hiring a play-calling head coach. Now you're trying to evolve him into being a CEO guy, which he's never had in his life. And he's never been anything remotely shown that skill set. Think about what you're doing to the head coach and the quarterback. You are actually doing the same thing to Nick Sirianni that you're doing to your quarterback. You're trying to reinvent these guys into people they're not. Nick Sirianni's not a CEO. I bet you this. If Nick Sirianni was a play caller in Cincinnati, I bet he'd do really well. I bet he'd do great. If Nick Sirianni was a play caller in Los Angeles, I bet he'd be really great. If Nick was around Prescott even, I think he'd be pretty good. Why? Because those are in the image of Phillip Rivers. He had a great year with Rivers. That's the style of quarterback he's more accustomed to. I think he'd be great with those guys. Hey, that year, Phillip Rivers and that Colts team, I can't remember what team in the postseason they stretched out and almost beat and it was like a touchdown away from knocking someone off. Phillip had a really good season that year, and he was going to retire. He was going to retire that year. He did good with Brissett and Luck too. Was he I didn't know he was in Indianapolis that long. He had Andrew Luck because I thought he came to Indy with Frank Reich. I didn't think he was in Indianapolis with Arians and Chuck Pagano. I thought he got to Indy when Frank got to Indy. Rivers didn't need Nick to have a good season, Dan. Yeah, he did. Well, get this. His wide receiver coach in San Diego when he had a great year, and Frank was the OC for Mike McCoy. When McCoy was the head coach of the Chargers, Phillip had his most productive year. Keenan Allen had a sensational year with Nick Sirianni. I didn't even realize it, but that's when I met Nick. Frank had, I didn't know that he was already in the building before Frank showed up. Luck was there in 18. I thought that Frank Reich got the job in 18, and he wasn't that. I thought they got Jacoby Brissett in 2018, and Andrew Luck retired after the 17 season. Sirianni was the OC starting in 18 with Luck. I didn't know that. I didn't know Luck was still in the building in 18 because Frank was the head coach. I didn't know he had 1 year with Frank. I didn't remember that. I thought once he got the job, he retired, and then Brissett got the job. I'll have to take a look at that because I didn't think he was in the building then. But the point is, again, this is an Eagle issue. Nobody in the NFL and executives in the NFL are saying this about Hurts now. Here is a common conversation about Jalen Hurts. You ready? Well, they don't run the read option any longer, and it's not as proficient as it was last year. And the precision RPOs are gone. And this is their take on Hurts. Jalen Hurts is never going to be a top 5 quarterback, but he can play himself into a top 5 season if coached correctly. But he doesn't have top 5 talent compared to these other guys. That's not my take. Mike Lombardi said that when these executives put that together. And quite frankly, if you think about it, in his 3 years starting, he hasn't exhibited it in any kind of consistency yet, where you would make even a consistency comparison. All 3 years have been different. So that's why 2024 is a big year to see who he is. I agree. Frank had one of the best football games in football history. He sure did, Akbar, when he took over for Jim Kelly in that, was it a divisional game? I don't think it was the AFC Championship game. And it was the Music City Miracle. It was a really incredible game. Hey, think about this too, Akbar. Frank also had that game against us down at the University of Miami when we were up on them 31-0, and they came back to beat us. So 2 pretty significant games and comebacks. That game, when they played the Titans, and when the Titans and Bills, they came back to win. Bills end up winning. And also when he was in college. Oh, well, Bills and Oilers. Didn't realize that. Sales Hurts has lost his burst. He must adapt, and it may take some time. You know what, relative? I don't really think that Jalen has lost his burst. I think he's being asked to do more things. And when you have him do more things, that's more thinking. That means you're processing stuff. It makes you look slower. I think the 2022 offense was perfect for him. They probably had 7 plays with 18 different looks to it. And Jalen went out there with the read option. Remember, Jalen was more the OC that year than even Shane Steichen, because the read option is all quarterback decision-making. When you read option, you have to have pre-snap understanding of where you think the ball's going to go. I don't think he's developed that skill set yet. Like, you can tell when he goes through his progressions that he can't find the open wideout. You can see it. How many times in games last year were you saying, guy's wide open underneath? Why didn't he just go there? Well, it was underneath the sticks. So what? Who cares? And again, I don't think this is a Hurts issue. I think this is more the Eagles changing him. I think it's more of that in the process. So, yeah, I mean, and by the way, let me show you what Jeremy Fowler, the head NFL scout for ESPN, thinks of Jalen Hurts in the NFC before I bring Xander up here. So this is his top 5 quarterbacks. Do I agree with this? I don't think so. I don't know. So Fowler goes like this: 5, Jordan Love, Green Bay. Number 4, Purdy. 4 playoff wins, 17-4. Number 3, Dak Prescott. Number 2, Jared Goff. Number 1, Matthew Stafford. That's not my list. That's the head NFL guy for ESPN. They don't even have Hurts as the top 5 guy in the NFC. Pickett, first round. Chance to revive career, then trade. Dude, the Eagles are not going to put Kenny Pickett in. That's not what they're going to do. That organization does not admit failure. So think about that. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN doesn't even have Hurts in the top 5 NFC quarterbacks. Stafford 1, Goff 2, Dak 3, Purdy 4, Jordan Love 5. NFL executives don't have him in the top 10. This isn't me. This isn't me talking. This is these guys actually punctuating what I've been saying. I mean, dude, you guys keep saying this shit about Josh Allen all the time. Well, one thing is for damn sure, nobody else thinks that way. And everyone else in the league thinks that Josh Allen's a top 3 talent. Am I right? What's this? Hold on here for a second before I bring Xander up. Godfather getting conversations because he's posting too much shit on the can't get into this. Okay. Anyway, hit the like button here. Without further ado, don't forget Gary Cobb at 4:30. The man, the myth, the legend, our dear friend, Xander Kraus, joins us each and every single Monday through Friday at 3:30, the co-host of Birds 365. He joins us here. And happy football Monday to you there, Xander.
What's up, Big Cells? Happy Monday, brother.
Xander, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your spin just for a couple seconds on what's been transpiring in this country over the last couple days. Everyone's talking about it, and I'd love to hear your take on it just as we get – and you know the cool thing is shows like this in sports, in football, it unites us again, so we kind of get away from that. But everybody obviously has been affected one way or the other on what they saw this past weekend.
Yeah, I hope we can unify as a country. It's funny, though, all the people talking about unity are the same people who've been calling the guy Hitler for the last 8 years, and now they're wondering how things got to this point. It was a sad day in our country. I hope we can unify because of it. I pray for Donald Trump and his family. I pray for Joe Biden and his family. I pray for everybody. We're all human beings, Big Sills. I don't know why we've reached the point in this country. You even see it in sports where you can't have somebody disagree with you. Like, I don't care if we don't agree on everything. I don't expect us to agree on anything. And I think we got to get back to that point in our country. I thought your open on the whole thing was very good, to be frank with you. I thought you nailed it. I thought John McMullen nailed it this morning as well. And hopefully we can get to a place in this country where it's a little bit less hostile and we all work for each other, to build a country that works for everybody. I think that should be the goal of everybody. But I will say, what an iconic moment what a shot to have a billionaire get shot at with a gun, goes down, gets decked, and he stands up and he pumps his fist. I mean, you don't have to like Donald Trump to understand the magnitude of that type of moment right there. That earned my vote. I know who I'm voting for in November. Not asking you guys to do the same, but that's certainly who I'll be voting for in November. Definitely a big supporter of Trump after you see what's happened, and pretty crazy what happened there, Big Sills. I mean, we're living in history. I mean, I said to my pop, I'm like, I'm going to be telling my kids about this when I was, where I was when I saw that happen and everything. So, look, it's a crazy moment. I'm not going to sit here and preach to everybody to believe what I believe, but that's what I saw. I thought it was pretty insane how it went down. I thought Trump showed that's a moment, Dan, of fear, and you can't control it, and just all these different things. And to do that, to stand up and to raise your fist and yell fight, and with the American flag blown, I just thought it was an iconic moment, and it will live, it'll go down in the history books for sure, that image.
One of the greatest pictures ever shot.
Absolutely.
It'll define Trump,
absolutely,
American history, that moment there too, for sure. So again, that gives us the ability to be able to do great stuff like this. Sydney says, my point, you think Hurts injury free this year? Dude, that's so impossible to predict when you're talking that kind of stuff, Sydney. I think he's got a chance. I think when you look at Hurts, every quarterback has a chance to get injured because they have the ball more in their hands. Projecting injuries, that's not something I do because, again, that's fantasy talk. I have no idea, Sydney, if this guy's going to get injured or not. I'll tell you what, I think you got a less chance of being injured running the ball, and that's what Phil Simms said. Get this. This is what he said about the read option. You have more of an opportunity to get down because you're in control of the play when you have the read option, more so when you're in the pocket and you get hit from behind. You know what I'm saying, Xander?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah.
I never looked at it like that, but Phil goes, hey,
I don't think Kellen's going to use the RPO much. I think he should, but I don't think he's going to. We'll see. I mean, I'm not sure though.
Well, we're going to go here in a second here to that, but I want to first start out with how we opened up the show here with Nick. And I believe this was on the Philly Voice. He was doing an interview. And Nick Sirianni was asked a question, and he goes, I don't believe we're going to overcorrect anything because it wasn't so much that we got out of the gate in a bad way the last two seasons. One was 8-0 last year. I believe they got out, if I'm not mistaken, I think the 5-0. And so his premise is it was more about our finishes. How did you take that when he said that they're not really going to change anything in their preparation for the start of the season?
Yeah, maybe that's part of the reason they brought in Saquon Barkley is they were struggling to close out games. I mean, there was a lot of tight games last year when you didn't have that closer, but I mean, look, they're in a way that's a little bit of a load of baloney. I mean, who's the coach that said that? You are what your record says you are. You went 1-6 down the stretch. I don't want to hear the story. Yeah, I don't want to hear the story about how great you were. Look, fix it. Whatever the problem is, you're the head coach. You should understand what what it is, diagnose it, and attack it. And look, they've done their job. I think Howie's done a good job. I think he's built a good roster around them. We'll see. I mean, the defense is definitely suspect, Big Sills, in terms of, getting this thing in a spot where you want to compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, a lot of our fans hate Jonathan Gannon. We had 70 sacks that year, dude. Like, we're never going to see that number in how long? I mean, so it's I hope our defense can be good, but there's a lot of projection involved in the defense coming into the year, and that's a little bit of a cause for concern. Offensively, I think we get back. I think Kellen Moore does a good job, but I'm not sure if you caught any of Birds 365 this morning. They did an interview with Nick Sirianni that was off the record to start. I don't know if it was delayed off the record. They didn't, you noticed they all wrote about it now today. So they must have gotten the clearance from the front office to.
Was it a pool interview where there were a couple
guys?
Yeah,
they were all, it was an off the record interview with Nick, who talked to all of the beat reporters. It's a changed role. He's admitted that completely, and I posed to John, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing for Nick to be a CEO coach, but John pushed back and said, look, it's a lesser role. He already was a CEO head coach. Last year, he had final say in the offense. Now he doesn't have final say in the offense. So we'll see how it progresses for the team. But the talent's there. I think the coordinators are there for them to at least extract the most talent out of the guys they have. We'll see how it plays out.
So here's my problem with that thinking then. I think every team is different, Xander. 2022 had more experienced veteran guys. 2023 is different. And the 2024 roster is different. I don't think you can have a blueprint on how you're going to start the year every year where you can just say this team here doesn't need, because this is what you have on this group versus 22. You have more projections and more potential conversation at every single position on defense than you did in 2022. You were pretty solid with your linebacker. Get this, your conversation on your linebacker position in 2022, there wasn't one. Everyone assumed that TJ had found a guy in 21 because when they implemented him and they installed him, it stopped bad run defense. So you had that conversation stop. He leaves. It's still here 2 years, 3 years later, since this guy you haven't addressed it. And so when you have all that, all the things you did last year at the beginning of the season affected your tailspin at the end.
Well,
it affected it. So I think that's a flaw, and I think that's a front office thing. And for Nick not to have any say, new coordinators, you don't think with new coordinators, how many practices do you think, Xander, the Eagles have had total so far going into training camp? What would you say? 3 days of OTAs, 3 days again. They had 2 camps and then another 4-day one. So you're talking about 9, 10, 11, 12. You had 13 days of practice with these coordinators as a unit. You're probably going to have 2 weeks of training camp. So you're really going to tell me 28 days or 21 days in not even in pads. You're not even in pads yet. So you think 28 days of practice and 14 days in pads. You think you're ready for September 6th?
No, I don't. I mean, I think it's one of the flaws, but it's also a league thing, Big Sills. Like, there's not that many teams out there that are working that much harder than the Eagles. There's a range. There's some flexibility there, but there's no 2 days. There's no deep early in July practicing. It's just not the NFL anymore, and that's why, the turnover at coordinators is such a big thing, maybe even more now than it used to be when, you're practicing all dang summer. It's not that much, you have it down by the year. So we're going to see how that plays out. I'm optimistic that the talent can overcome some of that, but I think it's going to be a ramp up period for sure.
All right, let's move on to this other topic here. So the National Football League executives came out, and I talked to Mike Lombardi, as I said when I opened the show, he's been on the program. He's a former general manager himself with the Browns, worked up in New England with Belichick. He's got his own show now, and he's plugged in pretty much. And ESPN came out with their top 10 quarterbacks. And Hurts is not on that list. Prescott's 10, Goff's 9, A-Rod's 8, Stroud 7, Herbert is 6, Stafford is 5, Lamar is 4, Allen is 3, Burrow is 2, Mahomes is 1.
That's a pretty good list. I mean, the only one I would change there would be Stafford. I'd probably put him lower and probably put Dak and Goff a little bit higher. I think Stafford is not the guy he once was, but go ahead, finish your question. Sorry.
Okay, so this is what Mike said that they said about Hurts. Here it is. He said that the read option last year seemed to be taken out of the offense and that the precision RPOs weren't as effective as they were also the year in 22. They said this about him. He's probably a top 13, top 14 type quarterback and could play himself into being a top 5 quarterback if there's good coaching around him. But last year, there was clearly a step back in the approach on how they coached him. And so I was thinking to myself once again, okay, so this is once again an Eagle thing where if you're not coaching him, and Xander, I swear to God, man, and I'll say it one more time, if we're talking about how they're trying to help Jalen be a better 22 version, I'm having a completely different conversation on an everyday basis. I am completely different because that guy was a weapon then. But if you're going to try to tell me that you're manipulating him into being something different, look at what they're doing to Sirianni. They're trying to change him into the CEO guy. He has never in his entire coaching career ever exhibited being that style of coach. But now you hired a guy who you want to be somebody different than what you hired him for. You hired him as a play calling head coach. Well, he wasn't good at it. Now you're trying to evolve him into that. Last year, I'll get to this here in a minute on him, but you're trying to even change him. So how do you view this here and how people they don't even perceive him look at Jeremy Fowler, Jordan Love 5, Purdy 4, Dak 3, Goff 2, Stafford 1. And the reason for Purdy, he's got 4 playoff wins. He's 4.
Well, is that an NFC ranking right there?
That's an NFC ranking. And he's 17-4 in his last 21 ball games. Purdy's got 4 playoff wins. He's 4-2 in the playoffs. I mean, they don't even have him looked at as in the NFC as a top 5 guy.
Yeah, well, listen, I think the thing that's hurting Jalen on some of this stuff is that he only did it for 1 year in terms of MVP caliber play. And by the way, if last year's first 12 weeks, if the season ended after 12 weeks, I'm not saying it did, or I'm not saying that you can factor out the last context, he would probably be regarded in that conversation. But when you have 3 years of being a starter and 2 of them are mediocre and 1 was great, people will side with what they saw more of and most recently. So Hurts is a bit fighting that narrative, but they're not entirely wrong. I mean, these are all guys that are right there. They're all comparable players. I think Jalen can. The point is, I'm fine with Hurts being ranked where he is because I don't think that means we can't win a Super Bowl.
No.
Agreed. So that's where it's like, how much does this even matter in the grand scheme of things? Look, it matters. You want a great player, but I want a guy I can win with more than I want the most talented player on the planet. Aaron Rodgers was a top 3 talented quarterback for 14 years straight in the NFL. What did that get him? He got 1 Super Bowl. Brady had 7. Which guy are you taking? So for me, it's I'm good with the rankings, but I don't think they're that far off. I mean, the top 10 one. Who would you put at 11, 12, 13? It's tough to not see the list.
I'd put Hurts in there somewhere.
Yeah, I put him at 12 or 13, or maybe even 11, depending on
what other options 11 to 13. I don't think he's 15. I think like 11 to 13, he's somewhere in there.
Yeah, and to the point though, when he plays like you saw him play in 22, not saying he will, but if he did do that, how many guys does he jump? Yeah, how good is he in that moment? I think he's a top 5 player when he plays like that, maybe a top 7, top 8 type of quarterback. I don't think he's in the league of, the Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, who was 4.
Lamar?
I like Lamar talent-wise, but I'm not sold he can win it for me. Like, I've seen more from Jalen in the playoffs than I've seen from Lamar.
You think Lamar was in the NFC to be a different conversation about him playing in the NFC title every year?
Well, if Lamar was in the NFC, it would certainly be a different conversation. But again, he hasn't been the greatest quarterback in the playoff games. I mean, he's thrown a lot of interceptions. He's
doing 4.
Kind of reverted back to his, some of his early flaws in his career where you've seen them come out in the playoffs. I think he's very talented, but that goes to my point, right? He probably is the 4th. That probably is accurate. Fourth best quarterback in the league. Can I win with him? I don't know. I feel better about winning with Jalen Hurts right now than I do about Lamar Jackson. That's because I've seen it with Jalen Hurts. I've seen him put on the show with Mahomes on the other side when the lights were the brightest. So I try not to get too involved in the quarterback list or at least too swayed one way or another. To the Nick Sirianni point, what is his job? Like, I know there's other coaches.
Are they trying to create a job for him?
I know there's other coaches out there who are CEO coaches like a Mike Tomlin, other guys. I get it, Harbaugh, but like Nick's not about to tell Vic Fangio how to run a defense, and he already told the guys, which is being reported now, he's not about to tell Kellen Moore how to run an offense. So is he a glorified PR guy? Is that it? I mean, is he about to go out there and just do the bidding of what the front office wants him to say? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that go into it. Maybe my negligence is showing or I don't know everything that goes into it, but it is kind of interesting. The head football coach has really no say on what they're doing in the football field. Right? Isn't that how it's being reported in a way? And I don't get what that means or what that means.
And it's evolved into that from from the last game of the year against the Buccaneers to right now, where they are redefining what John, like John said, they're redefining this guy in his role. And that's why when Jalen was asked the question, you and I and him are in the same boat. I don't really know what that definition of his role is.
Yeah, which is, I mean, look, there are many instances of coaches winning Super Bowls or at least being very competent, going that far when you're a Super Bowl when you're a CEO head coach. But I mean, just the last couple Super Bowls, Kansas City, obviously you have Andy Reid. That's not a CEO head coach. 3 years ago, it was the Rams who beat the Bengals, where you have Sean McVay, obviously not a CEO coach. Now, the guy in Cincinnati, he kind of is, not really, but kind of.
He's a play caller too.
Is he the play caller?
He's the play caller in Cincinnati. Zach Taylor.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, Tampa Bay is the last one 4 years ago with Brady when they beat the Chiefs.
Bruce Arians,
who was the CEO coach. He wasn't calling the offense.
No, it was what's his name? The quarterback, the former quarterback that was there that played at Marshall. He was the offensive coordinator there. There was a guy.
Yeah, it was what's his name? Shoot, I'm blanking on his name. The guy that was the head coach candidate in Jacksonville. Byron. No, what's his name?
Yeah, Byron Leftwich.
Yeah, right. I couldn't think of his name. Sorry about that. He was the offensive coordinator. And then the year before that, Kansas City won again, Andy Reid. The year before that, it was New England who beat the Rams. That's Bill Belichick. He's kind of his own guy. You can't really duplicate Bill Belichick. And then the year before that, it was Doug Peterson, who was the architect of the offense. So it's interesting to look at the Super Bowl winners in the last 6 years since the Eagles won and be like, a lot of them are offensive-minded or not CEO head coaches.
And play callers.
Steve Ike, come on, man. That's not true at all. CEO coach, that's been a thing for a long time. Ask John McMullen, who's been talking about he wants Nick Sirianni to be a head coach. Look,
Don Shula was a CEO coach. He didn't coach the offense or defense. He never was. Jimmy was a CEO coach. Jimmy never coached the defense. And I'll make this point. Jimmy Johnson never coached an offensive play or a defensive play. On top of that, Marv Levy was never an offensive-minded guy with the Buffalo Bills. They had different play caller guys that were in the building there. All those guys that were there the other guy was not a CEO coach. Bill Walsh, he was an offensive play calling head coach. They always had a quality defensive coordinator on the other side of the field that Bill would hire. So certain coaches like Tomlin and John Harbaugh, that was a trend back in the day. Mike Ditka didn't run the deep offense when he was in Chicago. Buddy Ryan kind of ran the defense when he was in Philadelphia, but he had nothing to do with the offense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I just don't know what Nick is going to be doing. If he's not involved in the offense and he's not involved in the defense, he's not involved in special teams, like what is his role? These guys, this guy's pretty, decent take here by Mr. Salmon. Thanks for checking in, bro. It's pretty clear what his job is. Sirianni's a wide receiver whisperer. I don't even think he's that anymore, mister. I really don't. I mean, John always talks about the first year he was there, he spent so much time on the wide receivers. Nick's background is with wide receivers.
It is.
I don't even think he's doing that anymore. I really don't. I don't even think he's doing that, especially with Kellen Moore now in the room.
Well, let me ask you something, though. Don't you find it kind of a coincidence that everything that the wide receivers are doing in today's Philadelphia Eagles, that's the superstar position and the superstar grouping, is on the Philadelphia Eagles? You think that's just a coincidence that Nick is, and a guy who's worked with Keenan Allen, he's a guy that's worked with Michael Pittman, he's a guy that's worked with really good wide receivers in the past, and they've really been successful. And all of a sudden now, don't you agree this is the best era of football in Eagle history for wide receivers?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean,
is there any coincidence to that?
I wasn't around for the early days when there were better players, Carmichael and Mike Quick and different guys like that. But ask anybody. I think anybody that's even been around. I don't know. We have plenty of Eagle fans who are older than I am. This certainly looks like the best wide receiver play I've ever seen, certainly in my lifetime. We have two bona fide wide receivers.
You never had a 100-catch wide receiver until these two guys.
Yeah, now the eras of football have changed in a way, to be fair, just to be fair. But, yeah, the wide receiving group we have now is incredible. Remember, it was a reaction, though. It was a reaction to a failed attempt at fixing our wide receiver room with Jalen Reagor and some of those picks. So, but this is where we're at. We'll see how it plays out. But to go back, I don't know what Nick does. He's a PR guy. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I go back to your list. Remember the list you made, which was, things the Eagles have to do to get back to a Super Bowl. One of the main things was stay out of the way by Nick Sirianni. So maybe that's becoming more and more true.
One thing I'm going to say this, and I'm going to back up a little bit on Nick here. One thing this past weekend showed me is that you got to give people opportunities and maybe turn down the rhetoric on Nick a little bit. And I'm going to show you something here. Nick Sirianni, 667 win percentage, 34-17, 3 playoff wins, or 3 playoff appearances, NFC title and a Super Bowl appearance. Nick Sirianni deserves a mulligan.
100%. 100%. I think without a doubt, he deserved a chance to get it right. Now, I don't know if I love the way that they did it, though. I mean, maybe it was all Nick's doing. John says Nick knew he had to come up with a plan. And his plan was to put the offense in Kellen's hands and try and be a better head coach, do the other things right. Maybe that was part of his plan, which in a way I'm okay with. I'm just questioning what he's doing now, and look, it might all work out great. And Nick, at the end of the day, Nick's going to get flowers if they succeed. He's not going to get credit for the offensive success, but if the team succeeds, eventually Nick will be the guy that gets to take the credit as the head coach. But it is interesting. I mean, I just don't know what he's doing. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, what is he doing? We don't know. This guy, wait. This guy says, this is a good point. I mean, being a head coach and play caller is a new phenomenon. Yeah, but here's the problem with that. Nick wasn't the play caller last year. Brian Johnson was. And before this season, Nick continuously said, no matter who's calling the plays, it's my offense. I'm in control. I know what to do with the offense. I know how I want to play offensive football. He had the famous quote. It doesn't matter if it's Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, or any of you calling the offense. It's my offense. He's not saying that anymore, which is kind of an alarming thing.
Xander, tell me this and just how they operate. If Nick or if Doug had won 11 games that final year in Philly, and with all the turmoil in the offseason, and they still looked bad, or they looked like they did this season here, do you think they still would have fired him?
Can you say that one more time?
Okay. We agreed the team didn't look good, and the 11 wins probably played a little bit into Nick being retained, was the fact that it wasn't a 4-win season.
Right.
But for Doug, if there were 11 wins, but they had the chaos with the personnel, they had the chaos with Wentz, the drafting of Jalen Hurts, nobody knew what that was about at that particular time. Carson Wentz melting down, all of that. Then their famous meeting. Do you think they would have still have fired Doug because they didn't like the direction of the way the team was going? Did the record have anything to do with Doug being fired, or was it just the way that Doug was getting along with Howie and with Jeffrey? Did the record even matter at the time, or was it just the relationship with the way the direction of the team was going?
Yeah, to be fair, I think 4 wins should matter. I mean, it did matter. I mean, but that wasn't why Doug was fired. I think that was part of it, but Doug was fired because Doug said, this is who I want, and that's not who they wanted. He wanted to make Press Taylor, for better or for worse. That's it. Whether that was going to be the right decision or not is a different conversation. But Doug deserved also a mulligan. Yeah, but for what he did. But it shows you, though, Nick deserved a mulligan too. But would he have been given it if he didn't do it in a way that they wanted? I don't think so either. And that just shows you the front office wants their power, which at the end of the day, what are you going to do? It's Jeffrey Lurie's team. He owns the damn thing. He's allowed to do whatever the hell he wants. But we're talking about it. And yeah, I think they probably would have fired Nick if he went with a different approach. And that's why, John's always like, look, this is what he felt he had to do to keep his job. And to his credit, he was right. Now, is the setup good? Maybe not. Is It going to work? Maybe not. But Nick lived to see another day as head coach of the Eagles. That is true. If he went in there with a different plan that they didn't like, he probably wouldn't be saying that right now, regardless of the 11-win season. We all saw how that ended. Jeffrey Lurie wasn't happy with how that ended. Now he's back for another year. We'll see how it plays out.
Why are you so high on Saquon Barkley and John's not?
What makes you say that?
It just sounds that John.
Well, no, this is where it gets funny because, because
it sounds like John thinks he's a good player, but
he's not a great player. That's what John says. He's not a game-changing player.
Yeah.
But we did our stat projection. John had 1,700 all-purpose yards for this guy. I had 1,400. So the perception is that I think the perception is that John hates the guy and I love the guy. John has bigger projection on the guy than I do. Now, I think he's a great player. I don't know. There's only one football, though, and that's where I'm like, I don't know how many yards he's going to get. I just care that the impact is great when it needs to be great, situationally. I don't know if it's going to be or not, but, John just doesn't think he's a game changer. And I get what he's saying. The guy has a lot of touches, man. Look at running backs and how they burn out over the years. I mean, we brought it up on the show a little bit ago. Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley. Like, these guys, when they get to that second contract, when you get 27 and up and you have 1,000+ touches on the football, you're burnt out, man. You're burnt out as a running back in the NFL. And the projection that Saquon Barkley is going to be the guy he was when he was taken second overall, I think that's somewhat foolish, to be honest, even if you're an Eagle fan, as I am. I don't think he's going to be that guy. I think he's going to work. I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's got the best offensive line he's ever had. He's got the best supporting cast he's ever had. I'm not taking that away from him. But is he the dynamic player that he once was? Probably not. That doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be productive. But we'll see. I mean, it's funny because everybody's saying, John hates Saquon. John has 1,700 all-purpose yards for Saquon. That's a hell of a season, Big Sills.
No, it is. It's a lot. I'll say this to you, though. Here's why I think that Eagle fans and what people are projecting him, Haas, 2,000 carries. Is that what he has? In his career, does he have 2,000 carries?
He's got a lot. Let's look.
If he has 2,000 carries, bro, that's like 300,000 miles on a car.
I know that's the point.
Okay, yeah, and so
so the factor is so if when you look at it, in his NFL career, he has 1,200 carries. Okay. I believe he had another 900 at Penn State.
Okay, so
I know it's a different thing, but that's still a lot.
So you're talking a guy in the last 12 years has basically 2,100 carries in the last 12 years. So when people are looking at Saquon Barkley, they're looking at a guy, you're buying a used car off the lot with 300,000 miles. I mean, you're assuming he's going to go out there because you have better talent around him, that those tire treads, and he's had 2 knee surgeries in the last 4 years. It's like
if you buy a Ferrari with 300,000 miles, it's still a Ferrari. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have some problems with that Ferrari. You're gonna have to get that thing to the shop every couple of times you go. That's just reality. So it's a good point. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying. I don't know though. I think he's still a dynamic player, but yeah, I think it's fair to be like, hey man, running backs don't last in the league. They never have lasted in the league that well, and he has a lot of touches on his belt. By the way, in an offense that he was getting obliterated in. No offensive line, no other weapons. He was like the lead guy. And by the way,
that's not encouraging because that means he took more punishment.
He's also had 288 receptions. So that's another 300 right there. That's 1,500 NFL touches.
So when you say that, Sills, watch this. Well, he was on a really shitty team and he had a lot of carries. And now he comes to the Eagles. Is that supposed to be comforting? That I'm buying a guy that's 2 knee injuries, and that's damaged goods.
Yeah, well, that's a worry. This is where I think Bob is spot on. Bob Brown's a great commenter. Bob, thanks for being here, brother. Xander, if Barkley does not come close to his very high ceiling this season for Barkley, will be viewed as a failure. To reach that ceiling, Moore will need to pull touches from Smitty and AJ. That's a risky move. That is a very, very risky move. I mean, you're going to pull the ball out of the hands of guys who have proven. By the way, they're in their prime. AJ Brown's coming off back-to-back 1,500-yard year, the two best years of his career, and he missed the game. Devontae Smith, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, an ascending player, younger than 25 years old. You're going to pull that out to get to throw the ball to Saquon Barkley? I don't think they're going to go that route. I don't.
Couple last ones here for you. So explain this to me. I heard you had a gentleman, I don't remember his name, I apologize, but you had a guy on. And here was another guy that brought up Jalen Hurts' knee injury. Or wasn't even reported. It was assumed that he had a knee injury. Once again, the Eagles never listed it. The Eagles never, and by the way, I'm going to get to a point here on it. The Eagles never listed it. Hurts at one time, if I'm not mistaken, had a brace on too. Did the Eagles coach around an injury that they didn't report, and that's why they ran the lesser of the read options and RPOs? Could that have been part of why they took some of the offense out? Was because maybe it wasn't an injury, but it was a nagging injury. And so it wasn't a point that kept them out. Could that now look, I think that is not an excuse, but it's a way to coach around. But when Patrick Mahomes got his foot stepped on, Andy Reid coached around that. And there were less plays in the RPO, and he didn't run as many RPOs, so you coach around it. Do you think?
Yeah, but maybe. But why didn't they just say that then?
What?
Maybe, but why didn't they just say that?
Well, because that organization's like a lot of organizations. They don't want to show.
Yeah, but
their
in a
hand.
way, they've created more questions.
They did, but they don't want to show their hand. They'd rather have the questions out there than giving you the definitive. Yeah, he's hurt.
Well, yeah, and once you put your foot in the sand on that, you probably can't go back because I'm pretty
Correct.
sure it's against league rules to hide an injury like that. So they basically had to stick with whatever narrative they decided to choose. And I think it ultimately did a disservice because now you have people questioning, what is Jalen Hurts? We saw 2 years of mediocrity, I guess you could. I thought he was a little bit better than mediocre last year. I thought he was 12, 13.
He wasn't mediocre last year.
What was he? Good?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't pay $51 million for you to be good.
Well. Also, he was good. He was good against KC. He was good against the Bills. He was good against Dallas. He was good against the Rams. He was good against some playoff teams. Buffalo. He was good against those teams, dude. I mean, so
yeah, he was. No doubt.
I mean that's why, to me, you can't just go, well, he sucked. It's not true because he beat significant QBs a year ago. You know what I'm saying? But it just looked off. It just looked a little bit off to me, and it wasn't consistent like it was in 22.
It wasn't an inspiring performance like it was in 22. I mean, when he was playing in 22, I mean, people were like, holy shit,
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is the next thing in the NFL. This guy, I mean, he was captivating fans. It was a different level of play. I'm not, like I said, I don't think he was bad last year. I don't think he elevated the team, which I believe to be a problem when you're the quarterback of the team and you're, I don't care about what he's making. I mean, it's cool he's making that, but when you make that, it comes with the expectation you're going to be able to lift the people around you. You're going to be able to turn the team around when things go bad. That's where I think it was worse for Jalen last year. I thought his play was mediocre. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was good. I thought it was mediocre. I really did. I thought it was just mediocre play. So I'm looking for him to get back to the form of him elevating people of people like, look at Jalen Hurts go, and we didn't have any of that last year.
Huh. I like JM's take there on that. Sills, that RPO doesn't work forever.
He's 100% right.
100% correct, JM.
And this is why I'm like, they're bringing in Cam Jurgens and they're making him do the blitz pickup. Why? If you know the guy you paid can't do an RPO forever, why would you not force him to get better in the other areas of his game that will aid him when he can't use the RPO? And they're not doing that. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Absolutely. Last one here. Help me out on this. Are we overrating the Eagle O-line?
It's fair. It's a fair question. I mean, the team really struggled against the blitz last year. Really struggled. Now,
And running the ball late.
yeah, but they kind of went away from that a little bit. You remember the dudes outside the freaking link or outside of the Nova can, they were trash cans, run the ball. I
Hey,
mean,
don't you remember Kelsey going like this? Let's run it. Remember?
yeah.
Okay. Do you think we're looking at this like this? If you're so good, how come you couldn't pick up the blitzes? How come you couldn't pick up
Yeah, it's
the
fair.
pass
Now, do you
protection? I
put
mean,
any of it on the quarterback?
yeah, well, I think you blame it. Like you said, how long did he hold the ball in 2022 in the pocket?
Yeah, he was quick. He got rid of that ball dang quick. Last year, he held it longer, much longer.
And it led to more hits on him.
Right.
Okay. Well, is that on the line or is that on the quarterback or is it on both?
I think it's on both. I mean, I think you can put a shred of blame on each person, but yeah, you might be right about the overrating the offense. Look, I mean, we have gotten into the mode where we love the offensive line, and to be fair, they are rated pretty dang high by all the.
Like
If
top
you're a
three.
stat nerd, yeah, they are rated very high. But yeah, I mean, there are moments when you're like what happened there? You know, the blitz pickup, namely. I mean, our team was awful against the blitz last year. I do believe part of that was on Jalen, and I don't think it's a knock where it's like he can't get better. He's a young quarterback. They're still throwing things at him that he's never seen. Remember, last year was the first year coming off his MVP caliber season. Teams adjust to you in the NFL. That's why the NFL is the NFL. They adjust to you. So it was his first year seeing some of those different looks, but you might be right, man. I mean, there might be some overrated going on, and you're going to see it now. I mean, we love to credit Stoutland, and I think it was JM, our buddy in the chat right now. I think it was JM who brought it to our attention. We love saying Stoutland's great, but every dang one of our offensive linemen is paid top in the league.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's making scrap guy. Now, Jordan Mailata was off the scrap heap. I mean, to be fair. So he made him
Three guys out of your five guys right now are top three salaries.
Yeah. So you should have a good offensive line when you have guys making that type of money. So to be fair, you know, that makes sense, but I don't want to go there that they're overrated because is Jordan Mailata overrated?
No.
Is Landon Dickerson overrated?
No.
Was Jason Kelsey overrated?
No.
Is Lane Johnson overrated?
No, absolutely not.
No. I mean, so it's as a whole, maybe.
How about their performance in 23? Was it overrated?
Maybe. I mean, but look, you can go down the Eagles roster in 23 last year, and you can literally read off every single name and say, where were they in the last 7 weeks of the year?
Yeah,
every single one. The quarterback, the O-line, the receivers, everybody, the running backs, the defense.
Last 7 games, A.J. Brown had one 100-yard game.
I mean, that's the story. That's the moral of last year. That's the story of the 2023 season. Jalen Carter dropped off. Jordan Davis dropped off. Every person on the team dropped off in the end of the year. You know, so it's tough to be like, oh, okay, we suck. The offensive line sucked down the stretch. Yeah, well, everybody sucked down the stretch. That's the point. Nobody was good. The quarterback wasn't. The offensive line wasn't. Nobody was. But to answer your question with a non-political fence riding answer, I'll say, yeah, I think maybe we're slightly overrating them. We got to see it again to get back to where we were. And I want to see it in pass protection, man. I want to see Hurts, I want to see them protect him in the passing game, pick up the blitzes when you need to pick up. And I also want to see Hurts make better decisions. Get rid of that ball quick. Jam's right again. The loss of Sayamalu, that was a little bit underrated.
Oh, it was. And by the way, I'll make this point. Who do you think he was missed more, Sayamalu or Edwards?
Both. Edwards, though, probably. I mean, Sayamalu was missed, but at least you had Kelsey and Lane on either side of him.
It's becoming noticeable, though, that he's missed Sayamalu.
For sure. I mean,
look at Pittsburgh's run game. It's improved since he's been in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I just wonder if they don't care about the run game.
Well, they better not. That you better not say that because every one of your old linemen paid top dollar, and you just paid $10 million for it back.
I know. I'm the owner though. I mean, they don't want to be this run powered offense. They don't. And
How
I
funny
wonder
is
if
that? They don't want to be a run powered offense, but they're paying all the run powered guys the money.
I know. And those guys are supposed to be good in pass pro too. I mean, Senor brings up a good point. If Xander says Jalen Hurts' play was mediocre, then the O-line was mediocre. I would agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like I just said, everybody was mediocre down the stretch. There wasn't one person who was good in the last 7 games. Who?
Okay. However, what is really the greatest thing about this is everybody was mediocre and you won 11 ball games, which is sick. I get it, but it's still sick.
Leaves out some context.
Okay. Still, dude, the games you won, they were not against chumps. They were playoff
I know,
teams.
but they were at a certain moment. What happened in the last 7 weeks?
Institutional self-infliction.
It was like 2 different seasons last year, though.
Completely. Hey, I want to sneak one last thing on you here before I get you out of here, and then we're going to get Gary Cobb at the bottom. According to NFL analyst Chris Kaufman, the Eagles in the next 2 years are going to have $3 million in future cap debt that they're going to have, and they're going to have on the books. There's only one team in the National Football League, and I posted on my Twitter page that shows that the Eagles are the most expensive team with cap debt due, most notably 90% of it next year. The next team is the Saints at $250. Then it goes down to the Browns at $240, Niners at $225, Bills at $195. So what we're looking at, and according to Chris, what he's saying is with a $255.4 million cap, they are exceptionally above it right as of right now, and cap debt that's going to be owed, which means this. They're going to have to restructure contracts again, which means they may have to be moving people. The team won't look the same because they're going to have to go back and restructure contracts. Now, is Howie the guy? Absolutely. I'm just saying you also have 27 free agents in the offseason, and you have a roster that you're going to have to retool again, and you're going to have restructuring to do this coming season when it comes to all this. Bro, there's a lot of work to do in the next year or so, and then you bring these coordinators in. I'll tell you what, the stuff's getting squeezed into where your Super Bowl window's today.
Yeah, it's true. But look, here's the problem with what you laid out. I agree. It's definitely something that's going to need to be addressed, but Howie's kind of proven that he goes to the restructure table. And now look, eventually you're going to have to pay the price. Now, when that is, I don't know. The salary cap is probably going to keep going up. We don't know now with the whole NFL Sunday ticket thing. That might slow it down a little bit with those type of damages they have to pay. So, but Howie's proven that he does do the restructuring the right way to where when it becomes a problem, the problem is addressed. And most of our players that are making up that cap hit are pretty young. And we're going to see, we're going to see how it plays out in terms of the cap regard. So, but I don't know. I don't know enough about how this cap works that when you have those massive hits in the future, how do you mitigate them? I don't know. It's a great topic to bring up with John McMullen, and I'm going to text him about it and be like, look, we got to talk about this because, everything looks great now, but even next year, like you talk about, what do we have? 24, 25 million?
27.
You know what we have next year? Only 10. And that's with
you got 27. You got 20. Oh, what the money you have right now is 27.7.
But that's this year.
That's
next
this year.
Season, even with the guys we have under contract, we only have 10 million in cap space.
Yeah, I like that. Right.
So it's eventually, Howie's got a lot of work to do, but in a way, he's proven that he's going to fix it, going to figure it out at the very least. And the other thing is the 27 free agents, dude, it's a whole lot of nothing burgers. It really is.
Well, there's a couple guys in there that are
Nolan Williams. That's it. And Mekhi Becton. That's it. And by the way, Mekhi Becton, we don't know yet. We're hoping. We don't know yet. He was a failed first-round draft pick in New York. Now it's the Jets.
Milton Williams, in your opinion, is gone. He's a one-year guy.
No, I think he's going to get done.
No. I mean Isaiah Rodgers.
He's the only one of significance that I look at those 27 and I'm like,
Okay, so Isaiah Rodgers and all three linebackers are going to be moved out again, right?
Is there any linebacker that you're like, hey, man,
no,
get that guy under contract? We can't let Zach Bond go.
That's still work that has to be done.
Yeah, there's definitely work that has to be done. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Definitely a lot of work to be done. I'm just saying, when you say 27, people are like, hey, man, whoa, that's a lot of names. All of our starting 22 is under contract except Milton Williams. I mean, in a way, we're in a good spot. Okay. So we'll see how it plays out.
All right. Xander, awesome stuff. Folks, we really appreciate it. Gary Cobb's going to join us here in a couple minutes, man. I mean, it's always great to talk sports. Hey, by the way, you see how many teams, as I told you? So already the Ravens are in the building right now. How crazy is that? And tomorrow, Bears, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, and 49ers. Their rookies report. The Eagles report on the 23rd. We're on the runway, baby. We're taking off right now. So we are here. Great stuff, brother. Don't forget, people, to check out Birds 365 with Xander and John each and every single morning. Brother, thank you so much, man.
Appreciate yourselves. Good show, man. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.
You got it. Keep it here. Hit the like button. National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. We appreciate you guys coming aboard. Thank you guys again, as you do each and every single day. I'll tell you what, one guy had to be happy about the news cycle this past weekend. That was Howard Eskin. He wasn't on the air on Saturday. Not really looking at Howard in this whole fiasco. I'm watching more Odyssey and how these companies conduct themselves. Like the NFL, like I said, with the tragic scene in Butler, Pennsylvania, how they pick and choose what they want to put their arms around. But the Eagles are totally behind this. Again, whatever happens to Howard, whatever. Hopefully the person that this whole thing happened to, she's satisfied with the result. It's more important for her, in my opinion, on what the result is here. Okay? So if she got a settlement like Yale said, oh, as long as she's happy with it and it's just whatever she's looking for, so be it. Again, I'm looking to resolve things. I'm looking to get to yes here. So I'm not, by the way, do I want to see Howard Eskin fired? No. I don't. I don't want anybody to lose their gig. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm looking at more is how certain people pick and choose the battles that they want to stand on an island for. Okay? That's what I'm looking at here. Okay? All I'm saying here. Let me go back here on this list a little bit. By the way, Gary Cobb's going to join us here in a couple minutes. So the NFL executives came out with this list. My list was a little bit different than what these guys hit on. And I don't have Jalen Hurts in the top 10. And personally, Jalen Hurts, like I told Xander just a couple minutes ago, I would say this to you. He's probably top 12. And can he play himself into the top 5 or top 6? Yeah. Can you win a Super Bowl with a top 12 quarterback? Well, if you can win a Super Bowl with a guy who was the last pick in the NFL draft, you can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. It's always the stupidest conversation when you hear people say, well, you can't win a Super Bowl with that guy. That's not the case here. That's just not. So this is going to be interesting. And once again, like I said, what I love the most about what Keith Byers said on the program a couple months back when we had him on, all the stuff that they have done in the offseason will be validated in September. We have no idea. It's projections and prospects. You know what that means? You haven't done it. Projection and prospects mean you haven't done it. And with guys like Gary and me, we don't give you the benefit of the doubt. You know why? Because organizations don't give you the benefit of the doubt. You're either this guy or you're that guy today. That's how teams look at their rosters. All that being said, we so appreciate him doing this whenever he finds time for us here. Gary Cobb joins us now from Fox 29, former Eagle himself, former 10-year-plus veteran in the National Football League. Gary Cobb, he joins us here as he does each and every single Monday. Gary, I appreciate it. Gary, how's your offseason been so far, man?
It's been good. It's been good. Man, it's so hot, man. You see how hot it is up here?
Yes.
I can't help but think, if I was going back out there, oh, man, as hot. It's been sizzling up here, man. Sizzling. The guys are really, they're going to get a real, but I check all that. I don't even need to say it. They don't work.
This ain't 3-a-days in 3 months.
That's right.
Hey, man, these guys have lawn chairs nowadays when they go to camp.
It's the way things have changed so drastically. But anyway, just getting back, I'm not going to get into that. But it's hot, man. It really is. But, of course, I've been thinking about, the Eagles thinking about, the decisions they have to make, looking at all those kids they got back there in the defensive secondary, how they've got to sort this out. They got to see who can do what. And then just defensively up front, man, I feel like finding where Jordan Davis is and go, hey, dude, hey, I'm getting you up at about 6 or 5:30. We're going to run. We're going to do some drills. We're going to get you ready, man, because this is a huge year for him. And, if he plays the way he's capable, but he's got to come in shape. He's got to develop a pass rush. The guy he's athletic enough to do it. He's got the long arms, big guy, strong, everything there. But he's got to be willing to put in the work. He's got to show up. In fact, he's got to come in and everybody's got to go, okay, all right, now that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. He's got to show, man, because the last couple years, I mean, stamina, no stamina at all. I mean,
Absolutely. So he's got to be a major factor this season here. And that leads
and
me to
they got to
this.
get something out of that defensive line. You know, they got to get those guys in the middle. If they do a good job in there, I tell you, they got so many, you know, for the defensive backs. Some of those kids, I don't know how smart they are. I mean, but they're athletic. I'm telling you, they got some athletic kids back there, you know, especially with the kids that they drafted. So they got talent back there. You just got to play smart football. But I did like the way they were playing zone. I see Fangio had them doing a good job of playing zone, meaning matchup zone, where they were communicating and everything. So I like what I saw initially. But they got a lot of talent, man. They could, you know, because if they got a good defense, offensively, if they can't put points on the board, somebody needs to be, you know, taken off and horsewhipped. I mean, if they can't, all that talent they got offensively. So I'm just looking at the defense, and you know, you got question marks on the defense, no doubt about it. They got young kids that haven't done it yet, and I mentioned, you know, Jordan Davis. We got to see something out of him, and then, you know, the linebackers,
Nolan Smith.
Yeah, Nolan Smith. You're right. So there are a lot of question marks on that defensive side of the ball. That's the thing where, you know, if I'm going to be concerned about the Eagles, it's their defense. Offensively, they should really eat people up.
Let me throw this at you here, Gary. Nick Sirianni did an interview with Philly Voice, and he was asked a question about the preparation for the upcoming season, and he said this: we're not going to overcorrect at all on some of the things that we did, because if you remember right, the last 2 years we got out to an 8-0 start, then we got out to a 5-0 start. And my take was this: well, every team is different. The 22 team had veterans that knew how to prepare each week, and prepare for themselves. And this unit that you have a lot of unknowns. You have a lot of youth in the secondary, as you said.
Yep.
You have a lot of potential, and you have a lot of prospects.
Yep.
When we're talking about the players and projections, even Bryce Huff, he's not a prospect, he's a projection.
That's right.
Going to replace Bryce Huff. So when he says that, is that a fundamental flaw? We're being told this, Gary. So you had 16 practices total in the offseason in shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to do the same thing you did with 14 or at least 13 full scrimmage practice or full gear practices. So you're going to have a total of 30 practices, and you think you're going to be ready for September 6th when you have a new coordinator and all that, and you're going to do the same? And I said some of the things that they did last year at the beginning of the season and in training camp, I think affected them at the tail end. Can you go into a season with a organizational way of doing things and not adjust to the type of personnel you have and think that you're going to be a success this year? Nick thinks,
you know, I'm comfortable Fangio's not going to allow them to do that. Yeah, I mean, you know, what I saw out there was a guy that had these guys start working, you know. I don't think he's going to allow them because they're not ready for that. Come on. You got kids that don't even know what they're doing. Even when I was looking at them, you can see you got young kids that are learning the game, and they need to be working. They got young bodies. They need to have them out there. That defense especially, they have got to put in the time, you know, because, you know, when you put kids in the game, a lot of times youth, they will go out and they'll disappoint you because you'll see the kid doesn't really understand what he's doing. So you have to do a lot of teaching, and they need to be out there on the field. It's not where they got to be killing each other, but they need work, man. They don't need to be sitting around. They need to be, you know, getting where they understand the coverages, and you don't need to be blowing coverages, you know, giving people points. See, you know, you don't need a lot of that. And the way that you make sure you don't do that is you have them do it over and over and over and over. And I know there are limitations because of the rules of the league and everything, but they need to be practicing as much as anybody, you know, especially the defense where they got all those young kids. And, you know, every time I see a young kid, you know they're going to make some mistakes. That's what young players do. And they got a bunch of them. They do not have a lot of depth. They do not have a lot of seasoned players on that defense, especially guys that have played in that defense. They do not have that many guys out there that are seasoned. You got young players. You need to be putting in the work. I don't want to hear about some nonsense about what happened, years, last year, the year before that. And maybe he's just out there talking. Hopefully he's just out there talking, but they got work to do, man. And they don't need to start off slow either. They don't need to start off slow.
How about this, Gary? National Football League, Mike Lombardi was telling me that executives and coaches, general managers put a list together of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And ESPN posted that list, and here they are. Prescott's 10, Goff's 9, A-Rod's 8, C.J. Stroud 7, Justin Herbert's 6, Stafford's 5, Lamar Jackson's 4, Josh Allen's 3, Burrow's 2, Mahomes is 1. There's no Jalen Hurts on this list. And I asked Mike Lombardi why. He goes, well, and I want to read you his comments. He said, well, in 2023, the read options seemed to have been taken away from the offense, and the precision RPOs were no longer prevalent in the offensive attack in what they were doing in 23. So that leads me to this then. Okay, so what all those executives are seeing, the further you get away from 22, the further you're getting away from developing him into a top 10 quarterback. So is this more of an organizational thing that they're doing this again and they're moving him away from 22 and they think he's going to develop into being a drop back quarterback? When, Gary, why don't you just leave well enough alone and coach him into the 22 style?
Well, from what I saw out there at camp, they had him doing drop back. They didn't do a lot of the, with him with Saquon running those, where he's got that option and everything. I imagine that is going to be part of the offense. I don't know how much because maybe they feel like they're running the risk of getting him hurt. But they were talking. I mean, they were running plays as if they are doing more drop back, plays. That's what they were
running. Does that concern you then? Because that's not his game.
You know what? He struggled some out there, there's no doubt about that. People that were out there saw that. I mean, so, I'll be interested to see what happens, but they weren't doing a lot of that, and they were doing, drop back. And as I said, with some of the things, and they, honestly, they were saying that, they're putting in a lot of different things. They were putting in things and everything. But we're going to have to wait and see. I can't guarantee. I don't know what's going to happen, but, they got, a lot of talent, and they should be able to put that thing together because they are going to do more motion, which they didn't do last year. But it's going to be interesting. It wasn't where they were up and down the field out there with those workouts. Now, I understand they were learning the offense and they were learning some of the things. So, I'm not going to get that worked up by it. But everybody that was out there, the offense was not just, taking it to the Eagles defense. They weren't. If anything, they were behind. The defense was winning. And so, that's something we're going to see. Now, I know they've been working, from what the guys have been telling me, the guys have been working together. So they're a seasoned group. They're veteran guys. I expect Jalen to have a good year. I mean, he's got all these weapons. I expect him to have a good year. We'll see.
How about this one here, Gary?
Yeah.
I think the guy that's really kind of the wild card in this whole thing is Saquon Barkley and how they're going to use him. And I'm going to make a point to you here. Mm-hmm. So he's got 1,200 rushing yards so far in his career. And he had over 900.
Wait a minute, 1,200?
1,200 attempts, carries.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, 1,200. Yeah, that's
1,200 carries. Excuse me. He had 900 carries.
Yeah.
In his 3 years at Penn State. So you're talking about 2,100 carries in the last 9 years. And the Eagles are looking at a guy who's had knee surgery 2 of the last 4 years. Do you look at a guy, and is that just something like, Well, it's a big name car. It's like buying a Ferrari with 500,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And sitting there thinking that that's going to be the same Ferrari with 40,000 miles on it. I mean, I look at Saquon and I agree with John McMullen. I think he was a really good player, but do I think he's a game-changing player? I don't. And now when you put the miles and you put the knee injuries on, why am I going to believe just because, get this, he has better players around him now, he's going to have a better career? Well, shit, Jalen Hurts had better players around him last year, and he had a down year. That doesn't necessarily equate to that, as you know, because you have great players around you. The Eagles had a nuclear meltdown last year.
Yeah.
So how do you see him in his role with this team?
Well, of course, I'll be honest. I'm in wait see just like everybody else. Okay. But I will say this, that what I saw them doing to him, they were throwing him the football.
Okay? Oh, so you think he's going to be prevalent in the passing game?
I think they're going to try those places every time they get where they can get him the ball in some space, because that's where, to me, is where he's the toughest, because one-on-one tackle, it's tough. He's tough to tackle in those one-on-one situations like that. And, of course, when you look at the Eagles, you're thinking about the pass defense. You're not thinking about Saquon Barkley. We got to worry about all these other guys. So I think they want to get him the ball in space. That's what I think they want to do with both in the running game and in the passing game. Get him the ball in space. Get you in a situation where they line him up outside. Boom. He shifts back. Now he's running the ball at you. I think what they want to do is, I don't think it's going to be where they're pounding. They don't want to do pound. I think they want to just get him in situations where he's got room to run. And I could see even with the running game where they're spreading you out, and then they're running against a front that is, kind of weak, because you got everybody thinking about the passing game. So I don't think they want to pound the ball. They were really working on the passing game to him. They were really doing that with him and Jalen, being able to run, because it is tough when you got a guy like him with those legs, and you're trying to make open field tackles on him.
How about this too? When it comes to Jalen Hurts, there was a conversation that the guys were having in Birds 365 this morning, and Gary, last year, Jalen at one time in the season had a knee brace. There was conversations potentially that, he had been playing, and maybe not with an injury, but as you know, you can have a nagging injury throughout the year that doesn't preclude you to go on the injured reserve list, or you even have to report it. It can be at that point where it's just a nagging knee injury. Like, you can have a slight tear in your meniscus and still play through it, and you don't really sometimes even have to report it. You and I know that players have played through shit like that before.
That's right.
So all that being said, do you think that was a little bit of some of the ineffective stuff at play calling last year, was that they were trying to work around not putting him into harm's way? And one of the reasons why is that some of the things that didn't look so consistent, taking away the read option, taking away the RPOs, that this year it'll be different because he's going to be going into the season more healthier than he was a year ago. Could that have played? And I'm not trying to make an excuse here for anybody here. Player accountability and coaching accountability got to count. But
that was,
as you know, coaches, coordinators, they'll coach around an injury on a player. Could that have played into it last year a little bit?
That was part of the situation. Yeah, he was not 100% healthy, and he had a wheel. You could see it was bothering him. They try to make cover it up as much as possible. But if you look at things closely, you could see that he was not as healthy as he has been. I don't think they want to lean on that as much. I'm going to be very interested to see, what their new offensive coordinator, Moore, what he sees, and I think that's one of the reasons they brought him in here, is they want some new ideas. They want him to do some different things. And I think that they have enough talent, especially, I expect Jalen to play better than he did last year. He's had a year under his belt. And I think, with Kellen Moore, hopefully he can do a better job than they did last year. Because I don't think offensively that the coaching they didn't do a good job last year. Come on, with not running motion. Come on, how could you where you don't have a motion in the offense? What is that about?
Right.
So
I mean, the Eagles had to be the only football team in the league with no motion. I mean, hopefully we can get Gary here unfrozen here a little bit here. Hopefully we can reconnect here a little bit. The Eagles had to be one of the only teams that didn't have motion last year. I mean, if you go back and look at it, that football team a year ago didn't do any motion. How many times did you see defenses last year when they were looking at it and when they were game planning, they knew exactly what they were doing? So let's go back to Gary. Let's see if we got him hooked up here. Here you go, Gary. Yeah, I mean, Gary, they had to be one of the only teams. Last questions for you, Gary. They had to be one of the only teams in the league last year with no motion in offense.
yeah, I mean, I was very upset at that. I mean, come on. You're supposed to be coaching. I mean, you're supposed to be sitting back and observing what you're doing, meaning you do homework to see, well, what do we do? And they were just plain Jane. And I thought what they did also is to just think, well, we've done this to teams the last few years. We're just going to do this. And they were very simple in what they were doing, and teams were recognizing what they were doing. Now, this year, according to AJ, they're not doing things the same way. They're going to give the wide receivers chances to show different looks. They just want you to be at the end of that route. You got to be in point B, and Jalen's got to know that. And they're giving them, we'll see how this works. Now, they were struggling in camp with this, because you can see him over there talking to the guys afterwards, after he thrown, a pick or two or, incompletions. They're over there talking about it. So I understand what they're doing to give the wide receivers more freedom to show different looks and everything. Just be where you're supposed to be at the end of the route when you're supposed to, where you can get the completion. So we'll see how that works. But they got a lot to prove. I mean, last year was, at the end of the season was just awful. And, Kellen Moore, hey, the floor is yours, young man. And that everybody's watching him, and he's going to hear it in Philadelphia, man. He's going to hear it immediately at what kind of job he does, and they expect that offense with all these weapons to be up and down the field. And I hope he's got something he's going to pull out of his bag, because I don't want to hear the excuses.
How about this one? Final one here for you. You mentioned Kellen Moore. There's surely a lot of pressure on him. You have to turn around Hurts. Yeah. And you have to save Nick Sirianni's job.
That's right.
I mean, that's all on this guy here. And if you're Nick, you've got to rely on that guy, because he came out also and said in an interview with John McMullen, I suggest people, Sports Illustrated wise, you can read it. He said, it's Kellen's offense. So can that dynamic work, Gary, where your fate is in the hands of someone else this year? And can that relationship work? I mean, if they get out to a slow start, which I think they're going to, because, dude, you got a lot to work. I think they'll be better by the end of the year than they will at the beginning of the year. I think they'll be better. I'm not saying they're not going to win games at the beginning of the year, but it could be bumpy, especially with Green Bay, the opener in Brazil. Can that work?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, what you're saying is unusual, where you've got the head coach basically has been demoted. The head coach has been demoted. And we're going to find out. It's going to be very interesting. But Kellen Moore is running everything. He's making all the calls. You go to practice, you can see that he's running the show when it comes to the offense. And, they weren't gelling, great. They weren't, wasn't a great, time when they did the 3 workouts there in the offseason. But I don't want to hear no excuses. Philadelphia does not want to hear that.
No.
Well, hey, Kellen and Jalen, fellas, you better come with it, because Nobody wants to hear the drama. You know, if you got excuses, you know, you could go tell some family members or something because nobody else wants to hear that stuff. So they got to hit the ground running. They got the talent. I think they're going to be all right because I think Kellen Moore knows what he's doing. And we're definitely going to find out, boy. They, you know, they expect them to start out hot right from the start. Like I said, you look at all the talent. We don't want to hear anything else.
Hey, Rents do.
Come on, man. All this talent out here. I'm thinking averaging 35. That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
Come on.
That's your expectations this year.
Yeah, they're high because you look at that talent, even with you know, you got you know, Kelsey leaving. And nobody wants to hear about Kelsey. We got young offensive linemen. We got an offensive line here, talented offensive line. They expect points. And I think they're going to be all right because, you know, they played together for a while. I think that Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts sit down, talk, you know, and do some things he's comfortable with. But they have got to be ready to put points on the board. And I think they should be able to.
Gary,
that's the game, man. Nobody wants to hear anything else.
No way.
You know?
They surely do not. Gary, as always, thank you so much for finding time for us, man. We're on the runway now. Get this. How about this one, Gary? You ready?
Hey, this stuff is gonna get. Hey, it's gonna get hot quick. You know that.
Oh no, get this. The Ravens are in the building right now. They reported Saturday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Bears, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, and 49ers. Eagles report on the 23rd. So
I know.
We are here on the runway here, so football season is kicking up.
You're saying there are people in camp?
Yeah. They got those are rookies that are showed up right now. The Raven rookies are in the building right now.
The Raven rookies are in the building.
Yep, rookies and free agents are in the Ravens. They've been in the Ravens building for 2 days.
Hey, well, let's get this thing started then.
Let's go, baby.
Hey, Jalen. Hey, man, come on, let's go.
That's right.
Hey,
Gary, thank you, my friend.
That's right. Hey, take it easy, man. But hey,
you got it. Our good friend,
ready.
Gary Cobb. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, Gary.
Hey, have a good one.
You got it. Our good friend, Gary Cobb. Make sure you hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Appreciate you guys coming aboard. Please hit the like button. You guys believe that Nick Sirianni deserved the mulligan and being brought back this year? I've kind of changed my opinion on this. I have. Because I'm going to tell you why. I started thinking about it, and someone said, Sil, so you wanted the Eagles to make another move at head coach? And I said, yeah. And they said, so you wanted them to become like the Browns, not the Steelers. Well,
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
What's up, everybody? I know I am not Big Sills. I am not Dan Sileo. He dropped off. His cable is out right now. I'm going to work on getting him back up. Just give me a second. I just wanted to update you guys and not give you 2 straight breaks without the update. So stay tuned. I'm going to take one more break. I'm going to get Dan on the phone, see if I can get him back up. If not, I'll kick it around with you guys for a little bit, take some questions in the chat, and we'll talk some Eagles ball as we are just 8 days out from training camp, everybody. Very exciting time. Sorry about the internet dropout. Let me call Big Dan now and see what he does, see what he's got to say, see where he's at with his internet. And I'll get back with you guys in just a second. So stay tuned on the National Football Show. We'll be right back.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to the National Football Show with Dan Sileo. I'm obviously not Dan Sileo. I'm Xander Kraus. Thanks for being here, everybody. Dan's internet's struggling a little bit right now, working on getting him back up. I'll bring him in as soon as I can get him back up. Should be back up in a second. For anybody in the chat, I want to go to you guys, talk to you guys a little bit. We're constantly up here talking about training camp. We're talking about what we're looking for going into training camp. I asked John on Birds 365 for my fans. I'm on Birds 365 and our loyal viewers there. What are you guys looking at going into training camp? What are the big things standing out to you? As a fan of the team, you watched what happened in the last couple of years. You watched us march all the way to a Super Bowl in 22, and then you watched us collapse in 2023 after starting 10-1. How are you viewing the season coming up this year? What things are you looking at as we go into training camp? As I wait for some of your guys' comments, I'll dive into a couple of mine. My number one is Jalen Hurts. I've been open about that from the jump. Jalen Hurts to me is the number one in terms of what we have to get back in terms of getting back to the Super Bowl. We go as far as Jalen Hurts is going to take us in this game, right? I mean, if he gets back to 22 form, which I don't know if they're going to use him like that, but at least the talent level, at least the skill level, if he gets back to that form, I think we could go. I think we're a Super Bowl contender. Now, I think the defense is a problem in terms of when you talk about going to the Super Bowl, you kind of need a lot of things to align. And with our defense, it's not the greatest defense. I mean, we don't have proven players everywhere. And even at the positions where they are proven, I'm questioning Darius Slay. He's 34. I don't know about that one. I'm a little bit concerned about Darius Slay. So we'll talk about that. JM says, I agree with take Hurts is the determinant. Agreed, JM, for sure. Jason A-Team says linebackers. Yeah, A-Team. You and all of Philadelphia are wondering where the linebackers are for sure. So we will see. Prince, what's up, Prince? Training camp is another dumb holiday, to be honest. Well, Prince, to be fair, we're talking about a whole lot of nothing in the offseason right now, admittedly. I mean, we are, this is the one period of the NFL calendar where there's nothing other than the talking points that we create, other than the things that we pull from the mini camp and the draft and, what we make of the 2023 year. There's not much. So in training camp, we will get new information. We will get some of the players talking. We'll get video of the guys on the field. So look, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's not football. It's not a game. But in that regard, look, it's a good thing. We're going to see more about the team. We're going to see more from the young guys. We're going to see more of, Jalen Hurts and the wide receivers. And, everything is going to start to take place for the year. So that's a good thing in terms of, what we have coming up. I'm excited for it, at least. I don't, you might not be, but I certainly am excited for it. Sue says, go Xander. What's up, Sue? Appreciate you always being here. One of our best supporters. I appreciate you very much. Cosmo says, hey, Xander, who do you think wins the right guard spot? It's a tough one, Cosmo, because or Como Salama. I guess that's a Spanish word there, Como se llama. I don't know, man. Tyler Steen was very underwhelming in the game he played in last year. He's a tackle. He was a tackle in college. So I just wonder if they default to the guy that has more experience, and that's Mekhi Becton. But boy, that's a big guy to put in there at right guard. Jalen Hurts is only 6'1"ish. When I met him at the Maxwell Awards, he was, not much taller than me. I met him. I was like, wow, Jalen Hurts is, normally you meet an NFL guy, right? And you're like, this big dude. And Jalen Hurts wasn't that big. He was right there my size. So I just wonder about the passing lanes there. And, we're talking about using the middle of the field. How's he going to use the middle of the field when he's trying to look over Mekhi Becton and Lane Johnson and all those guys? So it's definitely a tough thing. I'm going to do some business on the air here. Sorry, guys. Dan's texting me. Let me make sure he's all right. All right, he's working on it. I'm going to tell Sills to join back in. When he gets in, I'll bring him back up. Appreciate everybody being here. Anything else in the chat I can pull? But to answer the question, I don't know. I probably lean Steen on this just because I think the Eagles want him to win the job. But Becton, you can't rule out Mekhi Becton. And then they also brought in that Max Sharping and Matt Hennessy. So we'll see, what they do at that position. Steve Ike, number one, the defense was horrible. Got to get some third down stops. Yeah, Steve, it's a good point. I kind of think the whole thing, like they go hand in hand. And you guys know this. You guys are football fans. You're obviously here listening to a football show on July 15th. So you know it is. But when the defense is better, the offense has a chance to be better. And when the offense can stay on the field and not go 3 and out, the defense will be better. So I think it's kind of a hand, like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I think if the offense is better, it helps the defense. If the defense is better, it helps the offense. But you're right. I mean, they got to get off the field on 3rd down. Defense was just terrible last year. But here's the problem, right, with the defense. Here's the real problem with the defense. When you think about the defense and you think about 2023, which is last season compared to this season, you would say, all right, I feel better about the defense this year. We got better players. We have a better coach. At least we think he's a better coach. I would say he's a better coach, more established coach. Obviously has more history in the league, a lot more of a track record to show. But there's questions everywhere. I mean, every spot on the defense, in a way, is a question. I feel great about Jalen Carter. Nobody feels better about Jalen Carter than me. I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame defensive tackle. But it's a projection. We saw 10, 11 games of a great season, and we saw a little bit of a collapse. Now, like I said to Dan when I was on earlier today, everybody collapsed down the stretch last year. So it's a little bit of a different comparison. But anyway, he's still not a proven thing. Jordan Davis, not proven. Bryce Huff, we are hoping he can be what Hassan Reddick was. We don't know that. We don't know that. So we'll see there. Josh Sweat. The guy's been inconsistent since he's been here. He's a prototypical edge rusher, but he's been largely underwhelming, at least from my perspective. He's been very underwhelming. So we don't know on him. Nolan Smith, 1st-round draft pick, 30th overall, did a whole lot of nothing last year. That's a projection. Linebacking core, do I even need to talk about the linebackers? You and I both know the linebacking core is a massive question. Nakobe Dean, I am almost out on Nakobe Dean. I'm not ready to say I'm out completely. I'm almost out on Nakobe Dean. Devin White, look, everybody's high on the potential of what he was, and he's obviously a talented player. He was drafted 5th overall. Obviously a very talented player, but he's been sucky the last 3-4 years in Tampa. They gave him the 5th-year option, which I thought was interesting in itself. They paid him like $15, $16, $17 million last year, and they put him on the bench for an undrafted free agent. And then they proceeded to win a playoff game versus us. So I don't know about Devin White. The whole linebacking core is just a wash. There's nobody there that has real pedigree, real talent, somebody that's going to turn our defense around. So I think that's a big problem. Then you move to the back end. I'm excited. A lot of young guys, a lot of young players, a lot of potential, but not a lot of proven. And then the only thing you have that's proven, there's 2 things you have that are proven. You have Darius Slay, who's 34. How much of a step back is he going to take? And then you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's the other guy who is proven, but he played 2 games last year and he played 12 the year before that. Can he stay healthy? We don't know on that. So every level of the defense, the front, the middle of the field, and the secondary, there's questions all over. I don't need to get into the questions on Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They haven't played yet. Keely Ringo, hey, I'm high on him. We'll see what he can do. So the defense is tough because there's just questions at every level of the field. It's tough to think about. JM says 3rd and long killed us. It really did, JM. You got to get off the field on 3rd and long, and Fangio excels there. Good point, JM. Hopefully they can pick that up. And I think that will improve the defense, the defense's numbers as a whole. Even if you don't have better play, if you can hone in on some of those stats and fix some of that, just get off the field on 3rd down. How much better is that going to make you on defense? I think that's a big thing too as well. So good stuff there. El Yepis says excited for the rookies. Yeah, El, who are you excited for? I'm pretty excited for Quinyon. I'm excited for Cooper. After that, I'm not really excited for any of them. I thought the Jalix Hunt pick was dumb. You take a project player in the 3rd round when you really need more players. Thought that was dumb. Didn't like that pick at all. I don't anticipate him having any sort of role in the team this year. And then you move into the 4th round. I think they took Anias in the 4th round and Will Shipley. I think those are the 2 picks. Will Shipley was okay at Clemson. Okay. Mediocre. Not a game changer at all. Couldn't hold on to the football real well. Dropped a lot. Fumbled a lot. He's like a worse version of Kenny Gainwell. So my excitement for the rookies is somewhat tempered. Como Sayama, I think that's how it's pronounced, brings up Trevor Keegan. I'm pretty excited for Trevor Keegan, but looking at the depth chart, he's not going to have a chance to play this year. He might be a practice squad guy. I said gay. Pause. Practice squad guy to start. I mean, you have Tyler Steen, you have Max Sharping, you have Matt Hennessy, and you have Mekhi Becton now. So it's like, where does Trevor Keegan slot in? Probably nowhere this year. So yeah, I mean, look, those are late round picks, so those are mostly flyers anyway. But still, I'm excited about the rookies, but I am tempering my expectations because of that. Prince says, you guys don't understand how important coaching is in this league. Yeah, Prince, you're right. But at the end of the day, look, this is a player league, Prince. I mean, you need good players to win in this league. These are the most talented athletic men on the planet, especially in the game of football. I mean, how many players are amazing football players that never make it? These are the 1% of the 1%. You got to have great coaches, but you got to have great players. You got to have great players. Now, on offense, we got great players. And I'm curious to hear Prince, JM, Yepa, Jeff Bone, Como, Suplex. What do you guys think of Kellen Moore? I mean, this is one I haven't seen too many people talking about him. I'm like high on him. I don't know why. I've looked at some of his previous tape in Dallas. I thought he was okay last year in the Chargers, but I just have this weird feeling that he's going to know what to do with Jalen Hurts, similar to what Shane knew. Shane knew how to get the most out of Jalen Hurts. And I feel good about Kellen Moore. So you're right. Coaching is important. Maybe he will get the most out of the talent we have on the offense. So it'll be interesting to see. Jeff Bone says he's high on K Moore. I am too. So we'll see how that goes in terms of offense. But, back to Prince's point about it, coaching, it's important, but you got to have great players. And I don't know about the great players we have on defense yet. So, I don't know how much better that's going to be. Let's go to Suplex City. Our guy Suplex. What's up, Suplex? Thanks for being here, my man. CJGJ is a playmaker. He showed up in the second half of the Super Bowl. No doubt, Suplex. No doubt. The only knock on CJ is that he can't stay on the field. So if he gets hurt, what position are we going to be in? Let me text Dan. Sorry, guys. I know I'm doing some business on the fly here, and I probably shouldn't be, but I'm trying to get Dan back up. He's on the phone with trying to get these people back up. All right, there we go. Text Dan. Bruce Banner says, fuck Kellen Moore. I like nothing tainted in Cowboy. Yeah, but Bruce, look, I'm with you, but at the same time, what if he can be good for us? Like, I'm not gonna dismiss the candidate or the potential of him being a good offensive mind just because he wore the Cowboy star. I don't want to. I feel like if I went that route, then you are being biased to your own detriment. And I don't want to be biased to my own detriment, especially if you're the Eagles. And they didn't, to their point. They hired the guy. So we'll see. We'll see what it is. Prince says, we have the players. I watched this tapes. Guys were open on every play. I don't know who you're talking about there, Prince. Sorry about that, bro. If you want to put it in the chat who you're talking about, I will readdress it. That's a good point. Jeff Bone says, who knows? K Moore might have some intel on the Cowboys. Yeah, that's true. We'll see. I mean, look, I feel better about Kellen Moore just because of the talent. I mean, you bring up the point on coaches. I agree. Coaches matter, but who has better talent, Kellen Moore or Vic Fangio? Kellen Moore is a $175 million offense. He could potentially maximize two of the best tandem wide receivers in the NFL, a great tight end in Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, a great offensive line. I mean, it's all there for Kellen Moore. There's not one spot on Kellen Moore's offense where he's like, oh, that's a tough thing. I have to play around that. So Kellen Moore is really set up well. Like, if he has any idea what to do, this thing's going to look pretty good on offense, which is good. And it's also a credit to Howie. Howie's built a good offense. So we'll see if and this is where I go back to Hurts. You got to extract the talent out of the offense, right? I mean, and I'm admittedly, guys, I'm nervous about that. I love Jalen Hurts, and I'm confident he can bring us there. We've seen it, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous that Jalen Hurts isn't going to take that leap that we need him to get back to that MVP form. I mean, at the end of the day, it was 1 year. A career is not judged on 1 year. You guys know that. So Jalen Hurts has to get back to form. in order for us to go the distance, and we'll see what he's able to do. For anybody just checking in, we have some internet issues with Dan Sileo. I'm Xander Krause, his producer, host of Birds 365. I'm filling in for Big Seals right now, just as I try and get him back up. I don't want to sit here and run commercials for you guys all afternoon, so I am going to discuss and talk about some things. Anything in the chat, I'm going to hit on it, so appreciate you guys being here for sure. Mike Fittery says Trotter Jr. will be starting by mid-season. I don't know, Mike. I mean, I like Trotter Jr., and the only reason this is possible is because of the ineptitude at linebacker, where there's just not a lot of good players. So maybe he could get up there, but Mike, don't you when you see Trotter? Look, I like him. I'm definitely a fan. He was a St. Joe's Prep guy. I was a St. Joe's Prep guy. I graduated from St. Joe's Prep in Philly, so I don't want to be biased to St. Joe's Prep, but I like him for that reason. I've been following his career since high school. He looks a little undersized yet to me, and I don't think that's not an indictment on his overall career. I just think there's a little bit of a phase where he's going to grow into his NFL body. He's going to put on some weight, similar to TJ Edwards, where he went through that phase. He changed his body. He got in the gym. And I think it's going to be a year for Trotter to do that, more so than I do, to get him playing on the field. I don't know exactly how quick that will happen, but, if it does, it might be a problem, because that's just going to show you how shitty our linebackers are playing if he does get on the field. The follow-up, he says Trotter's slow, but he's physical compared to Dean. Yeah, and Mike, the other thing I like about Trotter compared to, well, not really compared to Dean, but compared to like a Devin White, is he's instinctive. He's very TJ Edwards-like in that regard, where he might not be the fastest guy in the room, he might not be the strongest guy in the room, but he makes the right read at the line of scrimmage. That's underrated for linebackers. So we'll see what he's able to do in that regard. But like I said, I think it's going to be more of a redshirt year for him. I'm okay with that. We'll see how it goes. Wow, this is awesome. Mark Holmes in a turtleneck, which is a funny name. He says, I live in Orlando and was bartending last night when I overheard two dudes talking about the show. You guys are growing like crazy. That is just tremendous. Awesome, man. I hope you said something to him. I hope you said you're a supporter as well. I love to bring in, as many fans as we can. That's my whole goal ever since I started hosting. This has been a change for me, obviously. As you guys know, you guys have been following the channel, but I was a producer for the first 3 years. I mean, JAKIB Sports, in a way, was something that I wanted to do. We worked in media for a while, JAKIB Media, and we were mostly a radio show company. We didn't really do much sports. And, when I took over the sports division, we started with the middle. We launched that on YouTube, and now here we are. I'm hosting. I never envisioned I'd be hosting one day, but here I am hosting, talking to you guys about Eagles all day. So I appreciate every one of you guys being here. But anyway, my goal with doing it is to try and build this to be one of the biggest digital media companies in the city and provide an outlet for Eagles fans. I want to expand to Phillies and get some more people in and get to cover all more sports. And, that's the goal, is to build this up as big as we can. So I can't do it without you guys, though. I mean, I can pull keys and make thumbnails and make videos, but I really can't do it without you guys. That's why I'm always thanking you guys, because, our hosts understand it, but they're just hosts, like I see everything and I see how important you guys are to our channel. So in a way, I just feel more connected to you guys, even though I haven't been talking to you as long. I appreciate each and every one of you guys more than you know. So I definitely appreciate all you guys being here. Let me go to a couple more comments here. Jay Brown, what's up, brother? Jay Brown says, Xander, who starts opposite of Slay in week 1? It's a good question, man. I think they're going to want to get Quinyon Mitchell on the field, but my gut is telling me it's Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo is a physical corner. He's a little bit bigger, and I'm an SEC guy, as you guys know. I went to Alabama. He just ripped the SEC apart. Nobody threw to him when he was at Georgia. So I think he's going to be a great player. We'll see what he's able to do, but that would be my guess. I don't know if I'm right. I'm probably not right. They're probably going to go with Quinyon Mitchell over there. But look, I think Keely Ringo would be a great option. They have Isaiah Rodgers. They have a ton of guys in the room, so we'll see what route they go with that. Good question though, Jay Brown. Appreciate you being here. I know you're always here, so I see all your views and I appreciate. JM says we're losing potential views. JM, what do you mean by that, brother? Not trying to lose any views, but just trying to bring the fan base together, bring great content to you guys, talk sports, and grow the channel, as I mentioned. Xander, you think we need another vet edge rusher? I mean, Do you want another vet or do you want another guy that can contribute? That's the question. I mean, I feel like we're okay on vets. I mean, Brandon Graham is the vet in the room. Josh Sweat's up in age. I don't know how many snaps he's going to play this year. I would have liked to go and get another edge rusher. Like, you know when I felt great about the edge rushers? When we signed Bryce Huff and we still hadn't let go of Hassan Reddick. I was like, we got Reddick and now we got Huff. I feel great. So I really want more of a productive guy than a vet guy. But that means Nolan Smith's not going to play it. But look, we didn't see anything from Nolan Smith in year one. So how am I going to go into the season hoping that Nolan Smith can be a productive edge rusher when he didn't show it in year one at all? You know, hope is not a strategy. Obviously, we talk about that all the time. So I was more leaning toward another guy that has pedigree. You know, I love that Brian Burns trade the Giants made, man. That's a good player. They didn't give up too much. And I thought that was a good move, but we'll see what they end up doing. Sue, thank you. Appreciate you, Sue, very much. I know you're always here. Very good stuff from you, Sue. Appreciate it. Good point, Taylor. You know who else was undersized? Ray Lewis. Got to have the want to if he wants success. Yeah, it's true, Taylor. I mean, we'll see on Trotter though. He's a 5th round pick. I don't want to make it too much pressure on the guy. I think he's going to be good, but we'll see, what he can do. Once he gets his opportunity, we will see, how he goes. Alejandro, love that name, man. My full name is Alexander. Alejandro is the Spanish version, I guess, of Alexander. How you feel about Sidney Brown if he gets the full healthy? I like what he showed on limited snaps. Yeah, I think the organization's pretty high on him too. During the back end of the year there, he was really playing well before he got injured. So he could definitely be a guy at safety. I don't have as many concerns at safety as others do. I feel decent about Reed Blankenship. I don't feel like he's a game changer, but I don't feel like he's a liability, if that makes sense. I think he's a solid starter. And look, it is the NFL. You can't anticipate to have 22 stars at every position. So you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You got Reed Blankenship on the other side. Sidney Brown right now is your depth piece. If they need any rotation, I think Sidney will be healthy by week 4, maybe week 5, week 6, somewhere in that range. So we'll see how it goes in terms of him. Sorry, I'm getting distracted reading comments, trying to do a bunch of things at once. I'm producing on the fly. I'm doing everything. Appreciate you guys working with me. Let me go to JM, who always has good takes. More people need to see your product. You guys have good stuff going. There are hundreds of thousands of people that use TikTok, but not YouTube Shorts. It's a great point, JM. Really just trying to get back on the rails here in terms of a business perspective, get the funding needed and an ad, because you're right. I'd like to do all that stuff. Believe me, everything you think about that we could do better, I have thought about once, twice, 10 times, 100 times. I think about it all day, every day. So I get it. I'd like to be all over there too. I'd like to have a dedicated content person making shorts, not just like cutting videos from shows. So, I appreciate the insight though, JM. I don't take it personally at all. I appreciate you telling me, how you think we could expand the channel and expand the network. So as always, your comments are always appreciated, brother. Thank you very much for weighing in. James Johnson. Xander, why is Jalen always in the shotgun? Is it because of height? I don't think it's because of height. I think it's more because that's where he's comfortable, and that's the game he likes to play as a quarterback. He was never an under center guy. He never liked it, and we'll see. I think if you put Becton at guard, I think you're going to have to think about it being because of height. I mean, you're going to need a 7-step drop just to be able to see the middle of the field. So that's my concern in terms of, the offensive line. It's like the towers up there, the giant. It's like the you guys can see on my background. I got the Philly skyline. That's like our offensive line. You got to see over the offensive line. Jalen's not the tallest guy in the world. So we'll see what they're able to do there. Akbar Divine 4-5. Thanks for being here, Akbar. Appreciate you, brother. He says Zan. So the Z. Come on, man. No X here. He says, how can our offense be stellar when they barely practice? It's very true, man, but it's the modern NFL. It's not like we're the only team that barely practices. This has been negotiated in the players' agreement in the CBA. It's not a practice-heavy league. It's not anymore, and this is where the concern comes with the new coordinators. In a way, continuity is more valuable now because of the lack of practicing. It's become a more valuable thing where if you can keep continuity, you're not as worried about the lack of practices. It's like coming into the year, our Super Bowl year. You know, we kept Gannon and we kept Steichen. There was no newness. There was nothing new. Everybody was on the same page, and we saw it. We had the best year there in 22. So I hope, you know, hopefully if we have a good year this year, we can retain both coordinators and maybe, you know, we have another massively big season next year. So I hate to admit this, but I will admit it because I don't know how many are watching right now. We got a small group of people, 130 on YouTube, another 250 watching on Twitter. I feel better about the 2025 season than I do about 2024 right now. And that doesn't mean I'm writing off 2024. It just means when you look at the contracts, all of our key players are under contract for 2025. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, a lot of those questions are going to be answered in terms of the potential players. You're going to get some of the young guys on the field. You're going to learn more about the new cornerbacks. You're going to learn more about the defensive line. You're going to learn more about Bryce Huff. I mean, if we go into 2025 and we rip the Band-Aid off in 2024, we could be a well-oiled machine coming into 2025. That gives me a lot of excitement. That doesn't mean I want to write off 24. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when I view it from a zoomed-out approach, I look at the Eagles and I say they're probably better suited to make a run in 2025 than they are in 24. Doesn't mean they're not going to in 24. I'm just saying 2025 looks great. Now, if you can retain the coordinators, I think it's going to be an even better thing. So we'll see how it all plays out for sure. True, yeah, I'm not ready to go out that far yet either, for sure. So, but I appreciate you checking in as always. Guys, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. It's 5:30. Just to remind you, I'm producing on the fly. So I'm setting up some videos for tonight on the channel, some clips, Dan's Open, Gary Cobb, my interview, and then the two previews we did on Birds 365 this morning. This morning we did the offensive line and we did the edge rusher preview for training camp. So I'm going to get them scheduled. I got to take a break so I can try and pound away on my computer. I got my second computer over here, my laptop over here. So I'm going to do that real quick. Stay tuned. Hopefully I can get Big Sills back up. If not, I will take it to the top with you guys. We'll kick some more things around. Any topics, any questions, drop them in the chat so we can address them. Admittedly, I wasn't ready to do the back hour here, but I'm going to do it with you guys for the end. So let me take a quick time out. We'll be right back on the National Football Show with Dan Sileo.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to the National Football Show. I'm Xander Krause, filling in for Dan Sileo right now. He had some internet issues this afternoon, just dropped off right at the beginning of this hour, so I'm going to fill in here for him and do the last hour. Appreciate all you guys being in here right now. Biden is king. Interesting name there, brother. Robert M., James Jones, Mike Bittery. Appreciate all you guys being here. JM says you're doing good. JM, I do not take it personal, brother. Believe me, I get it 100%. Like I said to you, I have all the conversations that you have in my head all day long. So I understand everything, and I appreciate you telling me what you think. Believe me, your guys' opinions matter to me. So I appreciate you telling me what you think we can do better, and I'll try and do it all. Believe me, I'm working on it, and I understand everything that's got to be done. So I appreciate you. You're one of our most loyal viewers, and I appreciate it very much. Let's see if we got any questions here in the chat. Let me go to Twiz. Where was that Twiz comment? I saw that. Twiz, if you're still in here, I want to talk about this. Where is this dang comment? Thought it was you, Twiz. Okay, it was not Twiz. Sorry, Twiz. It was Robert M. Robert M says, Hurts reached his ceiling in 22. I highly doubt he tops that this season. Okay, so here's and I want to ask a question to all of you guys, and I want anybody that's in here, I hope you guys can weigh in, even if you're not chatting. Chat so I have an understanding on where everybody is. I have the same fear that Hurts won't ever return to 2022 form. That's problem A. Do you believe, even if he doesn't get back to that level, we can reach and win a Super Bowl with him as quarterback? Consider all the context, consider the offensive line, consider the wide receivers, consider the coaching staff, consider the running back, consider everything. If Hurts never returns to 2022 form, can we still win a Super Bowl with him as our quarterback? That's my question for everybody. Biden says no. Jeff says yes. He can and will. Yale says he can and will, I think. Good take, Yale. Nope, Hurts has to be 2022 or a hybrid. Twiz says Jalen isn't in his prime yet. So, Twiz, you think Jalen's going to return to form and get better than he was in 22? It's a bold take, but I think it's possible. I definitely think it's possible. If he fixes the turnovers and fumbles. Good point, Como. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing probably. If he's got to get those turnovers down, he doesn't have to be spectacular. When you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon and Dallas Goedert and a top 5 O-line, you don't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He can do his part, keep the thing on the tracks and see what he does. Biden is king, man. If you want to donate $10, we would appreciate that very much. All you got to do is drop a super chat and I will read the comments. So thank you, man. Or join the channel as a member. That's cool to do as well. I appreciate you trying to do that. CZ says he might get, absolutely, CZ. He absolutely might get better. I don't know if he will, but he absolutely might get better. Como Sayama says you like my picture. Yeah, what is that? Is that Debo Samuel looking like that? Look, we'll see. I hope he can get better. I hope he can get back to form. Steve Ike says absolutely we could win a Super Bowl. So, look, I'm optimistic on it. Like I said, I've told Sileo, I don't care that he's not ranked in the top 10 quarterbacks because I still believe we can win. I used that quote on the show before, and I'll use it again. I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones. I think Hurts is the right player, but he does have some questions he has to answer this year, and we'll see if he's able to do that. I'm optimistic on it, but there's a part of me that still remains cautious, and so you can call it I'm cautiously optimistic on what Hurts can be, but we will see. So that was my first. This whole talk came from my first big thing I'm watching as we go into training camp. Number two, let's go defense, guys. I mean, we talked about it a little bit when I laid out all the questions. What's the biggest question on defense, though? What is the biggest question? Is it Bryce Huff? Is it the secondary who is coming in with a 35-year-old Darius Slay, a rookie, or Keely Ringo, a second-year player on the other side? I mean, what is the biggest question on defense? And can we get to top 15, top 18 on as a defensive unit with Vic Fangio? Do you believe we've got the talent to get to that level? I think Vic is good enough for a 5-spot improvement, but I'm concerned about the talent. One of the things I'm concerned about that others don't seem to be as concerned about is Fletcher Cox. I mean, I know Fletcher Cox wasn't prime Fletcher Cox last year, but he played 700 plus snaps and he was pretty effective. He was a good player. Now you're putting all of that pressure on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, to go and be pressure guys. In Jalen's case, a double-digit sack guy. That's a tough ask. And Yale says it, line. I'm with Yale. I mean, I think the line is where our bread is buttered, and there's still a lot of question marks on that line. I like the Bryce Huff move, but I don't love it. To be honest with you. I don't love the Bryce Huff move. I think he's going to be a good player. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he turns out to be as good or better than Hassan Reddick. But I have no clue if that will pan out, and that's how it's going to go. So we'll see. It's a wait and see game on the defensive side of the ball. So, we'll see. Oh, James Jones is in here, our buddy, resident Commander fan. James, I got a bone to pick with you, James Jones. When's the last time your team has won a playoff game, James? When's the last time the Washington Commanders have won a playoff game? Let's look. Does anyone have the year? James Jones. If this is true, we got problems, brother. Where is James? James, I know you're in here. You can't hide now, James Jones. Answer the question, James. I know it. I know you know when the last time y'all won a playoff game was. 07, is that right? Or was it 05 when you beat the Tampa Bay Bucks in the 2005 wild card round 17-10? Is that the last time you won? Or is it 07? There you go. Devontae's right. Man, James Jones, I love you, brother, and I appreciate your support as always. Y'all suck. Y'all are irrelevant, bro. Y'all flat out stink. The Commanders have done nothing. I mean, even the you guys are in Cowboys territory. You haven't done a thing. So I appreciate that you're excited about Jane Daniels. I think he's going to be a good player, but y'all stink. I mean, look, we knocked the Giants like they're a poverty franchise. At least they won a Super Bowl in the last 15 years. Eagles and the Giants are the only two NFC East teams that have won a Super Bowl in the last 15 years. Commanders and Cowboys are the island of misfit toys. They are not winning franchises right now. They haven't won in a lot. James says, hey, still worth more than Philly. Come on, man. I don't know about that. I'd rather be the Eagles than the Commanders all day long. By the way, you change your whole identity, man. Imagine if the Eagles change their name to the Hummingbirds or some dumb bird that is out there that's not us. We're the Eagles, man. That's the bird of the nation. We have this is another topic, and it's not football related, but I want to go into it. Sorry, my mind's going crazy a little bit right now. Do we have the best mascot in the NFL? We're the Eagles. Think about that. In my opinion, that's the best mascot in the NFL. We are the Eagles. That's the bird of freedom, baby. That's the bird of America. We're America's team, not some dumbass star, right? Do we have the best? Am I wrong or am I being biased? Maybe someone that's not an Eagle fan, check in. James Jones, give me something. I mean, are we the best mascot in the NFL? I think we are. Eagles, my opinion, you're the Commanders. I don't even know what that is. The Redskins was at least kind of cool. There was some history there. Thought that was a cool name. The woke world has taken over though, so you can't have that. Yeah, Yale's right. Predator, bird of prey. Good stuff, Yale. Appreciate that. all you guys being here. Just 17 minutes left to play. I guess we didn't get Dan back up. Sorry about that. Dan dropped off. For anybody that's just checking in, I'm filling in for Dan Sileo. I'm Xander Krause, host of Birds 365. Checking in for Dan, who dropped off. His internet must have collapsed for sure. It was funny. I was producing the show, and I got up to grab a quick bite to eat. I was getting hungry, just grabbed like a quick Chomps bar. And I come back and Dan's not on the screen. I'm like, where the hell did Dan go? So this is where we're at. I jumped into the fray to finish out the show for everybody. I will have to take one more break so I can try and set up the videos. Appreciate you all being here though. So we'll see, how it all works. Let me go to another topic here. How about the Nick Sirianni stuff? Guys? And more came out on that today where, the reporters did an off the record or on the record, but they waited to talk about it, which is like weird to me. I asked John about that. I'm like, how do you do an interview with Nick Sirianni months ago and then just not talk about it for months? And then now they're all writing articles today in unison about it. I'm like, that's pretty weird if you ask me. But anyway, we'll talk about that. But what do you guys think of the whole Nick thing? Like, how do you view it, right? I mean, is it a good thing that he's a CEO head coach, or is it like, what the hell is his job? Because, even last year when he wasn't calling the offense and the year before that, he always maintained this persona and this idea that this was Nick Sirianni's offense. It was Nick Sirianni's, whether he was calling the play or not. And he had that famous quote that everybody talks about. It doesn't matter whether it's Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, or any of you guys talking about the reporters in the room. It's still my offense. And now it's not. Now he's openly saying, this is Kellen Moore's offense. I brought him in to run the offense. Like, what do we make of that? Do we feel confident that we have a coach who can lead us to the promised land? It's almost a similar conversation as Hurts, right? I mean, you saw Nick lead us to the Super Bowl in 2022. Whether it was because of him or in spite of him, that's another debate. We saw us go to the Super Bowl with him as head coach. Do you feel confident he's still a guy that can take us there? Or he's still a guy that can lead us to winning a Super Bowl? I'm starting to fade on that. Now, the reason I feel good about it now is because I like the coordinators. I think Kellen's going to be good, and I think Vic's going to be good. But what does that make Nick? What is Nick to the Philadelphia Eagles right now? Is he literally just a mouthpiece? Is that all he is coming into the year? Yeah, but Twiz, here's the problem, bro. Here's the problem with this take. Twiz says, I love Nick's attitude. He's petty, just like the fans. But Twiz, is that I love the fans. I'm a fan, but I don't necessarily want the fans coaching the team, if that makes sense. Like, I think we need a guy that's more emotionally level-headed to lead us all the way. Maybe not, but that's just my initial reaction to it. Like, I like the attitude, but sometimes I worry if it's a detriment and if it plays against the Eagles. I always think about that one moment in the Super Bowl when Nick is like screaming at something and Jalen's like, yo, put your freaking hands down, man. What are you doing? And I'm like, Jalen's like the adult in the room. And I don't know if that's great to have a head coach that's not fully in control of everything, like I would wish sometimes Nick is. But I don't know. I mean, I just want your guys' overall take on where we're at with Nick Sirianni. Cameron says, as long as the front office keeps doing this one and done with coordinator, then we are screwed. Yeah, Cam, I mean, I hear you, but it wasn't really the front office the year before. We lost Shane and Jonathan because they were successful here. So in a way, if you're going to be successful and you're choosing the CEO head coach route, you're going to continue to lose coordinators. It's just the inevitable reality of the game. If you have success, you will lose coaches, and you have to figure out how to handle that. But to your point, I do agree. I mean, one and dones aren't a great thing, and we'll see what they're able to do. Mike Fittery checking in says Nick is working on getting somewhere else in the organization. Yeah, where, Nick? Mike? Where, Mike? I mean, front office? Is that what you're saying? I mean, they're not going to demote him to a coordinator role. They're not going to demote him to a positions coach. You think he's some sort of assistant to Howie Roseman? Is that what you're going for? I don't know. I mean, Mike, clarify just what you think, because it's an interesting. So Mike says, yeah. So front office. I mean, I guess the only other instance I can see was like the Boston Celtics, right? Didn't they move Brad Stevens from head coach, who was a great head coach, by the way, guy I wanted in Philly for a while, to the front office, and now they just won a world title. Look, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I do think the Eagles would have some pause with letting Kellen walk like they did Shane. I mean, you saw what happened when they let Shane walk. It wasn't good for us. It turned out to be a catastrophe, but you weren't going to fire Nick after he went to the Super Bowl. And just like if we have success this year, they're not going to fire Nick. So, Mike, that's where your point makes sense. Like if they did want to retain those guys, it would almost have to be an upward move for Nick for it to make sense. They're not going to fire a successful head coach, because then you create the illusion of what coach wants to come and work for a franchise that's going to fire successful head coaches. You're basically getting hired to get fired. So you're right in that regard. Maybe that would be, and you're right too on this. He's playing the part. He certainly plays the part, man. He kisses that ass of that front office like nobody I've ever seen before. So maybe you're right. Akbar checking in and says, "Yo, Z." I like that. You fixed the X. Appreciate that, Akbar. It went to a Z. Appreciate you, brother. He says, only way to hide the defensive deficiency is to keep off the field, which means you need to run the ball. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you think is that part of the reason that they brought Saquon Barkley in? I mean, remember when Kellen had the number 1 ranked offense in Dallas, he was running Zeke and Tony Pollard through the ground. They were running the ball a lot. That offense featured a lot of running game, and it'll be interesting to see how they use Saquon Barkley. It'll be curious to see. We'll see. Is Nick the Biden of the NFL? The cabinet is running the show while Dom keeps him from stumbling. Boy, Slagger, that's a good point, man. I don't want to get political. We already got political earlier on the show. Everybody got all upset with me. I'm like, hey, man, all I said it was cool is a guy took a gunshot to the ear, stands up, and puts his fist in the air. If you're a Biden fan in the chat, I got no problem with you. I love all of my fellow Americans. I think we got to get back to that and stop judging people based on who they vote for. But if you're a Biden guy in the chat, wasn't that pretty cool? I mean, the guy got shot in the ear and he stands up and sticks his hand in the air. I'm like, dang, that was pretty dope. But anyway, I digress. I don't want to talk too much about that. I got to take one more break, guys. 9 minutes left to go on the show. 5:51 here. Let me take a break so I can finish up the other production work I was doing. Sorry, I know it sucks, but I have to do it because I wasn't prepared to host this hour. I'm going to take one more commercial timeout. Like the show for Big Sills. He'll be back tomorrow. I don't anticipate he'll join in the next 9 minutes. So like the show for Big Sills and keep it here on the National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to the National Football Show. I'm Xander Krause. I'm obviously not your host, Dan Sileo. He is out right now. Internet dropped off here in hour number 4, so I'm filling in for him. Appreciate all you guys being here. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate all of our viewers. Appreciate Gary Cobb, who was on here earlier. Me and Sills had a good segment earlier as well. So if you missed any of the show, make sure you go back and watch it. Stay tuned on the channel. We'll have a bunch of videos, highlights, and clips from the shows coming up tonight. Appreciate all you guys. Let me go to the chat here. James Johnson checks in. Xander, Jalen has a lot of things he's not comfortable doing. Under center, throwing over the middle, and to running backs. Problem? I'd say yes, James. Not something I'm going to overreact to, but it's definitely a problem, right? I mean, you pay a guy. Look, I don't care about the money. Like, it's not my money. It's Jeffrey Lurie's money, and it's the going rate for quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, we paid him early, and we assumed, based on what we saw in 22, he was going to be that level of a quarterback. And if he wasn't there, he was going to continue to improve and get to that level. That was the whole idea around Jalen Hurts when he got that contract, was he's continuously gotten better every year. He's a relentless worker, and he's going to continue to get better. We didn't see that last year. In fact, we saw some of the other things pull him away from what's made him great and what's made him progress all through college and into the NFL. And when you tell me an NFL quarterback struggles under center, struggles throwing the ball over the middle, struggles dumping off to running backs, doesn't that kind of concern you? Like, isn't that basic stuff? Like, what do you mean you struggle under center? Isn't that what a quarterback does? Goes under center? Now, maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm not being open to a different style. But even if it's not your style, you got to be able to do it at times. You got to be able to have that tool in your toolbox to be able to go to it if you ever need to. And the fact that he doesn't have that, or at least they're showing that they don't think he does because they don't go to it, I think is definitely a cause for concern. I think it's fair to be concerned about that. I don't think you're a hater to say that. You know, that's where I'm like, I don't get that with our fan base sometimes, and I see it in our comments all the time. Just because I have a question doesn't mean I'm a hater. I want to win. Is this a concern with the quarterback? I think it is. So let's hope he gets better at some of those things. Let's hope Kellen Moore brings out the best version of Jalen Hurts. I'm with Twiz on this one, man. Tired of the QB controversy in Philly. Hope Jalen silences the noise and gets back to form. Twiz, you used the one word there, though, that I hate. You used hope. Can we hope, or do we expect? We should expect it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be true. I guess at this point, you're right. We are hoping, but that's not a good strategy. So, as Howie says, hope is not a strategy. Well, Howie's hoping he returns to form too. So in a way, Howie's hoping on it too, and we'll see how it all plays out. Jason 18, great point. NFL is going to be crazy this year before the election. Yeah, big election in November. You guys know how it gets in election season. The stakes are ramped up. Everybody's on edge, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. We started JAKIB Sports on digital in late 2020, 2021. So it was really after election season. And this will be our first time going through it. So we'll see how all the commenters and how everything pans out. So good stuff there. Jason 18 checking in. Xander, I couldn't stand when Jody was going at first, but you have really grown 365 really well. The biggest change is interacting with us. It matters. Jason, I appreciate that, man. We miss Jody as well. Look, sometimes business is business. we moved on from Jody. It was a mutual move on. He didn't want to get up anymore. And then the business, I'm not going to get into the business side of it, but the business comes into play, obviously. And, it sucks losing a guy like that, but in a way it's allowed me to step into a new role, try and improve my game. I'm happy that you're enjoying it. I'm happy I've grown on you. We appreciate you as always, brother. You've been a big part of the channel. I always see all your comments, so I do appreciate them very much. Just 1 minute left to go here, guys. Thank you all for being here. NJ Fishing, what's up, brother? Great time for Moe's. Trump on, MJ says. Pretty crazy stuff that happened this weekend, man. Hope you're having a great time. Great time out there in NJ. Are you in New Jersey, NJ Fishing? You must be, right? Staying in New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey a lot, so maybe we can link up one time, brother. Do a video on your channel. I know you do some fishing over there, so appreciate your support. As always, just 40 seconds to go, guys. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for interacting. I love talking with you guys every day. I know I say it a lot, but look, means the world, man, talking to you guys. Feels cool that I can come up here. I can be on camera and talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, a team I grew up loving, with other Philadelphia Eagles fans. I mean, in a way, it's a dream come true. It really is. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. When you guys like a show, when you drop a comment, when you drop a super chat, when you join the member, when you do anything, it goes so far in helping us reach what ultimately our goal is to reach. And I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you guys for being here. Great show today. Big Sills will be back. I stepped in for him in hour number 4 here because his internet dropped out. So he'll be back tomorrow. Thank you all for checking in. Let me go one last question here. Debbie Rush, my concern too is that we saw the best of Hurts in 22. I don't know how well he can return to form. It's true, man. I don't know, Debbie. I'm with you on that. I'm a little concerned about it as well. I got to be honest with you. I'm optimistic, like I said, but I have my doubts, so we will see. Hopefully he can silence those and become the quarterback we are hoping. Thank you all for being here today. Make sure you guys drop a like on your way out. I am not Big Sills. I am Xander Krause, but Big Sills will be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for checking in on the National Football Show. See you tomorrow, everybody.